Before vampires. Before Forks High. What if Bella's story began in La Push, as a black Isabella's paw? I was awoken by my annoying alarm clock that sat right next to my head on my bedside table. I had moved into Rachel and Rebecca's old room a couple of years ago when they had first left for university. I had painted the walls a light cream color and put a nice, comfy double bed in there. A couple of nights ago I heard Jake and Dad talking about how happy they were about not having to worry about another daughter leaving La Push and not communicating with their family anymore. They knew I would never do that. I loved them too much. I had a feeling that they were happy that I wasn't leaving was because of how much they loved my lasagna. As I moved around in my bed to stretch, my food suddenly got tangled in something. I reached down under the blankets and pulled out one of Jake's dirty boxers. Yuck, I whispered to myself while wondering how the heck his boxers got into my bed. Bella, 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 Jake said. If you wanted them that bad, then all you had to do was ask. But I'm feeling generous today. So you can keep them. Yeah, because I love you dirty boxers. I sneered at my older brother. I chucked them at him just as Dad decided to make himself present. Jacob, leave Bella alone, Dad screamed from downstairs. I rolled my eyes, then went back to talking to my brother. Jake, why are your boxers in my bed? I asked him. I don't know, he said as he flopped down onto my bed and closed his eyes. Bella, are you going to have a shower this morning? Dad bellowed from downstairs. Yes, Daddy, I yelled back in my sweetest voice, only to have Jacob mock me straight afterwards. I could now hear talking downstairs again. 2 nights ago was the first time I had heard it. It was 11 a.m. and it sounded like a lot of people were downstairs talking to each other. Jake, who's down there? I asked him. He shrugged and then looked at my door. Just some friends of Dad's, he said. Okay, well, I'm going to take a shower now, I said as I walked over to my drawers and dug through them trying to find some suitable clothes. I grabbed a bra and a pair of underwear before turning back to Jake. He was standing there smirking at me. What? I asked him. I know this may be a little weird because you like my sister and everything, but you have hot bras and underwear, he said suddenly. Hang on a minute, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, I don't picture you in your bra and underwear, I was picturing Quill in it, he said uncomfortably. Jake, that's disgusting. Number 1, why would you even look in my bra and underwear? And number 2, why would you picture Quill, out of all people, in my bra and underwear? I joked with him while I playfully smacked him on the side of his arm. Okay. Well, you try and figure out something for you to wear. I am going to sit here and try and get the image out of my head of Quill wearing your you-know-what, Jake S. Aid while shutting his eyes and flinching every so often. I laughed and grabbed on of my frilly bras and decided to play a prank on him. Jake, you are making me feel uncomfortable, I said while pushing him towards the door while sticking a piece of sticky tape on his back and hooking the bra on it. Goodbye, Jake, I said as I pushed him out the door. Bye, BB, he said while walking away laughing. I walked into the bathroom with my skinny jeans, bra, underwear and t-shirt. I turned the water on and let it warm up. Jacob, why have you got one of Bella's bras hanging from your back? Someone screamed. It was a man, Seth, I think. I strutted out of the bathroom, fully clothed, and stood at the end of the stairs. Whoops, my bad, I said while trying to hold in my laughter. Bella, Jake screamed while ripping it off his back. He ran towards me but smacked straight into the wall. I ran into the bathroom and locked the door. I quickly stripped and put the towel over me. Bella, open this door now, he screamed. I could hear loud booming laughter coming from downstairs. No, I'm naked, I said. No, you're not. That's what you want me to think, so I will leave you alone, he challenged. But what he didn't know was that I was actually naked. I shrugged and unlocked the door to find a furious Jacob Black standing in front of me. You are naked, he screamed. I started logging just like the other people who had made their way upstairs to see the show. I would be embarrassed, but I had a great body that was slim and nicely tanned. Everyone was laughing at Jacob, who was just getting up off the floor. "Ah, I'm sorry, Jakey. Does Jakey want a hug?" I said in my baby voice that could fix anything. He nodded his head sadly and gave me a massive bear hug. I put both my arms around him, and just as I expected, he ripped the towel from my grip and everyone closed their eyes in front of me while a laughing Jacob ran to stand in front of everyone. "Guys, I'm not naked," I laughed. "What?" Jake said sadly. "Now, this is another type of bra and underwear that girls can wear, the bra's strapless. I only have one word for you, Jacob Brian Black. Got ya," I said while screaming the last bit. He huffed and chucked me my towel. "God BB, why can't you ever let me win?" he asked while giving me a brotherly hug. "Because that's what little sisters do," I said while shutting the door to the bathroom and stripping off completely and hopping in the shower. "Jacob, you really should know by now that you should mess with bells," Seth joked as everyone made their way back downstairs laughing about what had just happened. But what Bella and everyone else didn't know what that left standing in the hallway was Samuel Yulee, still picturing the beautiful Isabella who was standing in front of him just a few seconds ago. He huffed and made his way downstairs. I hoped out of the shower to find Jacob sitting in his room reading a car magazine that I had gotten him for Christmas a year ago. Sup, Buttercup," I said sweetly as I sat on the bed nearest to his face. "I don't see what's so good about cars. I wouldn't even know anything about them, well, except how to drive them," I said, but quickly got cut off by Jacob. "Why don't you help me fix one then? You could pass the tools and then I could fix it," he said, putting the magazine down on his chest. "Okay," I said as I went downstairs to get some breakfast. Those people who were there were gone except for 3 of them. Seth, Quill and some other guy. "Nice show back there, Bells," Quill said. "Why'd you do it?" he said while laughing his husky laugh. "Defending you," I said as I looked through the fridge. "What?" Quill said. "I said I was defending you. Jake was thinking about you wearing my underwear and bra," I said. "Jacob Black is gay," Seth screamed throughout the house, while I opened a Primo and started to laugh at him. "Seth, shut up, I'm not gay," Jake said as he entered the kitchen and snatched my Primo from me. "Hey," I moaned. He looked at me then turned back around. I ran up to him and jumped on his back, reaching for my Primo that was getting flicked all over me and Jake. "Bella, get off me. I don't want to hurt you." "But when it comes to food," Jake screamed. "Jacob, stop swinging Bella around like that, she's going to be sick," Billy screamed while wheeling himself up to where Jake was running in circles with my hanging off his back. "Give me my Primo back," I screamed. The man I didn't know told Dad something, but I couldn't hear over Jake screaming at me. "Bella, get off. This is my Primo," he screamed at me. "No, it's not, it's mine. You snatched it out of my bare hands," I screeched. Someone pulled me off his back and whispered something in my ear. "Baby, just slap him," he whispered. His voice was so sexy. I nodded my head and skipped up to my big brother and gave him a bitch slap in the face. "OWWW, what was that for?" he said while rubbing the side of his cheek. I stuck my palm out for him to pee. Oot the Primo in and he put it in my hand in defeat. "Thank you," I said in my baby voice. I kissed his cheek and he went bright red as I skipped out of the room and into the lounge and turned onto the car channel. I am determined to help Jacob as hard as I can about that car we were going to be fixing. "Bells, since when do you watch the car channel?" Seth asked as he sat next to me on the sofa. Jake said I can help him build a car. "And I am trying to learn as much as I can about them," I said, not taking my eyes off the TV screen. Jake came and sat next to me and put his arm over the couch like he normally does. "Bella, you will be learning nothing from the TV screen. Me and Quill are going to help you build your very first car," Jake said proudly. I clapped my hands and pulled out a movie that was sticking out of the side of the couch. "Oh, can we watch this please?" I asked them once Billy, Quill and the other guy came in and sat down. The guy's name I didn't know sat down next to my feet. while Billy sat on the end of the couch on his wheelchair. I pressed play, but what I didn't know was that the movie went on for 4 hours straight. An hour through the movies and lifted my feet up and put them on Seth's lap and he began to rub them. I rested my head on Jake's chest and fell asleep a couple of minutes later. When I woke up, Jake was lying there asleep and so was Seth, while L was lying on the other couch with his leg hanging off the side of the couch and his tongue hanging out too. I could hear murmuring in the dining room. I didn't want to disturb them, so I just closed my eyes and tried to go back to sleep until I heard my name. Then I was wide awake. Why were they talking about me? When did you do it? Billy asked. This morning when she was standing there wearing her bra and underwear, he said. What did that guy say? What, is he some kind of slut who likes to check girls out? Sam. Jacob is going to be destroyed. You know how protective he is of her, Billy said. I know, Sam said. You will have to Jacob and Belle's soon. Maybe separately just in case Jacob phases in front of her, Billy said. Yeah, I can just see Jake standing there in his wolf form and my Ella standing there scared shitless, Sam said. Did he just call me his Bella? I'm not his. I'm mine. What the heck is going on? And what do they mean Jake in his wolf form? I mean that can't be the reason he goes out at night and into the forest. Can it be? Maybe I should ask him. No, he'll ask where I found out and then he might kill Billy and Sam. What am I meant to tell her? Sam asked worried. What about? Imprinting is when you find your soulmate and you love her for the rest of your life and will always be there for her no matter what. You were meant to be together and as soon as you look into each other's eyes you immediately fall in love, no matter how much you don't want it now, but once you look into his eyes you just love them. Listen Sam, Bella is a good kid and I don't want her hurt because of you. So don't do anything rash, okay? She may need time to adjust, but just let her come to you. But before you tell her, you need to let her feel comfortable around you, like get to KN out her and stuff and hope that you don't scare her away, Billy said. You're right. I think I will tell Jake first, then I think I will tell my Bella, Sam said. Again with the my Bella. I am so dead. As soon as I look into his eyes I've found my soulmate. Great. Just great. I mean I'm not saying he's not hot or anything, it's just that I don't really know him. But then Billy said that he would get to know me. Okay Bella, let's run over what you just heard, my mind said. Jake and Sam and possibly more, maybe Quill and Seth are werewolves and when you become a werewolf you imprint and Sam imprinted on me and he thinks that Jake will kill him for falling in love with me, I thought to myself. I could feel my eyes drooping slower and slower. I tried to stay awake but I was just too tired to stay awake. But when I closed my eyes all I could see were me and a mystery man getting married, but as we kissed they started wooing and shouting out, "Go Sam and Bella." I was happy that someone finally loved me, but before I get into anything I want to get to know him. Yes, that's the way Bella. Get to know him then see what you want to do with the rest of your life, my mind said. Billy. I think Bella's heart sped up while we were talking. I don't think she was asleep, Sam said. But I didn't hear anything else, I just let the sleep take over me. Isabella's paw. I woke up in someone's warm arms. I street, eared and then got laughed at by someone. I opened my eyes and found Jake staring down at me with a smirk on his face. What? I yawned as I closed my eyes once again. You were so funny, he said. You kept nudging your head into my chest. You're warm and cozy, I said trying to defend myself. I sat up before walking into the kitchen to find Sam, Billy and 4 other boys sitting there staring at the empty plate in front of them. They must be hungry. I walked over to the cupboard and grabbed out the ingredients to make pancakes. Are you guys hungry? I asked knowing damn well that they were all starving. Yeah, totally. Yes. Can I make myself a smoothie, BB? Jake asked. He knows not to come into the kitchen when I'm cooking. He always seems to find a way to break or catch something on fire while in here. Maybe. I said to him. I'm going to take that as a yes. Jake said as he walked past me and over to the smoothie maker. Hey Bells, how do I use it again? Jake asked. Jake, I've showed you it hundreds of times. You really have bad memory, I said to him while laughing. Here Bella, I'll do the pancakes and you can help him, someone from behind me said, Sam. I gave him the flipper and then stared at him. You do know how to make pancakes, right? I asked him knowing he probably won't. Of course I do, he said while giving me a goofy grin just like Jake did, but Sam's was way hotter. Hey Bells, I think I got it, Jake said. Jake, no, I screamed, but it was too late. Every single piece of his smoothie he had made was all over me, Sam and Jake, up the walls and on the windows. Jacob, Billy screamed. That is the third time you've done that, he yelled. Everyone was laughing at us. I had it all over me. Just as I thought it couldn't get any worse, the smoke alarm went off and I heard a mumble of swear words coming out of Sam's mouth as he tried to stop the smoke alarm from ringing. I ran over to the stove, but in the meantime slipping and falling on my back. I screamed as I felt my head get slammed on the tiles. I could hear people calling my name and everything. I'm not going to faint, I'm not going to faint. Seth, get her keys, they're hanging on the hook, and start her car, Billy said to Seth, who was running everywhere trying to dodge all of the smoothie that was scattered everywhere. Ouch, I said as I tried to sit up, but my head just started to spin. Sam, don't let her go to sleep, she may have a concussion. Billy screamed from the other side of the room. I wanted to go to sleep, so I just closed my eyes. Bella, keep your eyes open, sweetie, Sam said to me. I wanted to say no, but all that came out was a soft moan. Sam, do you think you can carry her to the car? I heard Dad ask. I felt a pair of warm hands go underneath me. My head was rested on his chest while my arms stayed on my lap. Sam, lie her down on the back seat, Dad instructed. Don't let her go to sleep. I could feel the rain drenching my clothes as I was carried out to the car. I was laid down on Sam's chest. Bella, don't go to sleep, Sam whispered to me, knowing that my head hurt. Just stay with me, Sam, I mumbled. I'm not dying. I heard his husky laugh that made my entire body melt and my heart flutter at the sound of it. You're right, he said. But you may have a concussion, so I don't want you to go to sleep. We're nearly there. I could feel him rubbing his warm hand up and down my arm, with oddly enough actually soothed me. Bella, I'm going to lift you up now, Sam told me. I moaned, which he took as a yes, when it was honestly a big no. As he lifted me up, my head whacked into his chest, causing me to cry out in pain. Bella, Sam said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. What did you do to her? I heard Jake yell. Why is she crying? No screaming, I moaned as Sam carried me inside. Instantly I could smell the horrible scent of hospital disinfectant. What happened? A man said. I instantly knew it was Carlisle Cullen. He had become my doctor 2 years ago when I had first broken my ankle. Someone from behind me growled. It must be a werewolf thing. We'd like another doctor, Sam growled. No, he's my doctor, I said as I started to close my eyes again. Look, I don't have time for this. She looks like she has a concussion, Billy said as he wheeled himself in front of us. Okay, bring her in and we'll get her a bed, Carlisle said. I was placed on a old bed and was covered in a rough blanket. Do you know how embarrassing this is? I mean, coming in here covered in smoothie, I moaned while getting my finger and running it along my shirt and then icking the parts of the smoothie in my mouth. Jake, I mumbled. Yeah, BB, he said as he moved forward towards the bed I was lying in. I think this was one of your best ones, I said as the darkness started coming towards me. Thanks, BB, but can you open your eyes? He asked. I let out a small moan as Carlisle stuck the needle into my arm. Sorry, Bella, I know you hate needles, Carlisle said as he attached the tube to it, and the darkness soon swallowed me whole. Bella's paw. I woke up with people on either side of my hospital bed. Sam and Seth were on my left-hand side while Dad and Jake were on the other. while any couple of boys were all hanging off the couch that was on the fair wall. Their heads were all resting on the side of the bed. Sam's hands were still entwined with mine, and I actually liked it that way. I thought about what it was like when I rested my head on Sam's chest in the car, but as I did, a throbbing pain shot through my head. I grabbed my hand from his and held onto my head tightly. Sam didn't seem to notice that I had moved my hand, but I actually felt uncompleted without him holding onto my hand like before. I closed my eyes hoping it would go away. "Ah, Bella, I see you're awake," Carlisle said, walking in with one of the white doctor coats and a clipboard in his hands. "Yeah, can I get some painkillers?" I asked while rubbing my temples. "Sure. Now Bella, do you feel tired at all?" Carlisle asked me. "Kind of, but not as bad as I did before," I said. Carlisle just nodded, then walked around to where my needle was sticking out of my arm and grabbed a needle out of the drawer. I jumped as soon as I saw it, waking up Sam, Dad, Seth and Jake all together. As soon as they saw my wide eyes, they were completely alarmed. "What happened?" Sam screamed. "Are you okay?" Jake screamed next. "What's wrong, honey? Do you want me to get you a doctor?" Dad screamed afterwards. Thank God Seth or the rest of the boys didn't say anything. I would have punched the next person who screamed anything in my ear. I looked at Dad and then pointed to Carlisle, who was just sitting there with a shocked expression on his face. Okay," Carlisle said. "You had quite a nasty hit to the head. So you are going to need hours, maybe days of sleep until you feel okay again," Carlisle said. "Days? No way is that going to happen. I have to go to school. And I defiantly can't go to school half asleep." "Okay, I'll look after her," Sam said quickly as he looked down at me. Dad shot him a look that said, "You picked the wrong words," and then Jake looked like he wanted to say, "Why did he say that? What's going on?" "Crap, I'm in for it. I mean, we'll look after her," Sam said afterwards, not taking his eyes off mine. Jake's paw. "What happened?" Sam screamed. "Are you okay?" I screamed next. "What's wrong, honey? Do you want me to get you a doctor?" Dad screamed afterwards. That's when I saw the leech standing there holding onto a needle. Now I get why she flinched. She hates needles. Okay, Lee. CH said. "You had quite a nasty hit to the head, so you are going to need hours, maybe days of sleep until you feel okay again," Leech said. "Okay, I'll look after her," Sam said quickly as he looked down at BB. I looked at him and so did Dad. What was up with him? He's making it sound like he owns her. I looked at the guys who were now widely awake from all of the commotion that had just happened. They were looking from me, to Dad, to Sam. "I mean, we'll look after her," Sam said afterwards, not taking his eyes off Belle's. I looked at Dad, who hadn't taken his eyes off Sam since he said that. He looked furious. "What the hell? Sam's paw. What happened?" I screamed. "Are you okay?" Jacob screamed next. "What's wrong, honey? Do you want me to get you a doctor?" Billy screamed afterwards. That's when I saw the leech standing there holding onto a needle that stuck out of my Bella's arm. She looked horrified. I so badly wanted to give her a hug and comfort her, but I knew it would look weird to Jacob and the rest of the pack. Okay, Carlisle said. "You had quite a nasty hit to the head, so you are going to need hours, maybe days of sleep until you feel okay again," Carlisle said. "Okay, I'll look after her," I said a little too quickly as I looked down at my Bella, who was lying down looking at everyone, obviously forgetting about the needle the leech was about to put in her fragile arm and the headache. Jacob looked at me. He knew I was hiding something. I had to quickly find something to cover it up. "I mean, we'll look after her," I said afterwards, not taking my eyes off my Belle's. Carlisle, heya. Dashe," Bella said as she flinched in pain. "Yes, well, I think you can go home today, but I will get you or something else to inject you with this every couple of hours. Does anyone want to volunteer to do it?" Leech said. Everyone looked at each other. I didn't want to do it because I knew if I did I would kill myself afterwards for hurting my imprint. "I will. Just don't kill me if you never wake up again," Paul said while smirking. Bella cracked a grin just like everyone else, but I knew he was serious. I growled at him, lower, so no one could hear me. Not even Bella, who was sitting right next to me. He nodded and lowered his head. I'm sure Sue will do it. She was a nurse when she was young, Billy said. I nodded and let the leech talk. Good, so she will know how to put in a needle into the vein. Leech said. Bella's eyes grew bigger as he mentioned the word vein. Wait. You mean that the needle that you put in my arm last night was stabbed into my vein, she said with a disgusted look on her face. The leech just nodded and smiled. Ew, she whispered as she looked at the thin pipe that was sticking out her arm. Everyone laughed at her, which caused her to blush. That blush melted me every time I saw it. All right then, when would you like to sign the release forms? The leech asked happily. Now, do you want to go home, Bells? Billy asked her. She just moaned in rep. Lee and Billy shook his head and then smacked Jacob on the back of the head. Ow, what was that for? Jacob complained. Billy didn't say anything, he just gave him the look. Jacob just nodded and sat back down. 10 minutes later. All right, Bells, ready to go? Billy asked as he walked into the room. He had just gone and signed the release forms at the front desk. She nodded and she slipped on her clean lots that Sue had brought in for her last night, shoes that weren't covered in smoothie. Let's get going then. Jake and Sam, you can go in my car, and then me and Bella will go in hers, Billy said. I really didn't want to leave Bella in the state she is, but when I looked at Billy he gave me a look that said tell him. I nodded my head and kissed Bella's cheek and left to the car. I wonder why Dad made us go together, Jacob asked as he climbed into the driver's seat. There's a very, very good reason for that, I whispered, hoping he wouldn't hear me, but he did. Super werewolf hearing. Okay, wait, what? I don't get it, he said. Billy always said he was stupid. I guess he was right. Look, do you promise not to get made in phase? I asked as I looked at him. Okay, he said. I imprinted on Bella, I spluttered out. Jacob slammed on the brakes in the middle of the road and turned to me. You did what? He screamed. This should be good. I imprinted on Bella. You know I would do nothing to hurt her, love her, I said. I don't give no damn about how much you love her. Get out, he screamed at me. What? I asked in complete disbelief. I said, get out, he screamed. He started to shake, badly might I add. The whole car was shaking. I ripped his seatbelt off and chucked him out of the door just in time to see him phase. Shit, and that was my last thought before I phased too. Jacob's paw. He imprinted on my baby sister. How could he? I trusted him and Dad. How could they keep this from me? Jacob's italic and Sam is bold. Jacob. What? Jacob, stop. You know I trusted you. How could you imprint on Bella? You know I can't help it, Jacob. I love Bella, and I would never hurt her. I know. I talked to the elders about it and they said you would react this way. I just don't want Bella to get hurt. And I never wanted her to be exposed to werewolves. I know. Trust me, I don't want her to have anything to do with werewolves either. But I will make sure she is safe. I love her. You don't know how much. I will do anything to prove to you that I love her. Okay. But swear if you hurt her, I will never be able to live with myself. When are you going to tell her? I don't know, but I think she's confused right now. I think she knows about imprinting but doesn't know what it is. Well, you'd better go tell her then. It might take me a little while to phase again, so go ahead. They should be home by now. Okay, thanks again. You know, for understanding. Yeah. Hurry up before I change my mind. Sam's paw. I phased back right outside of the Blacks' house. I walked across the road and up their drive. I didn't need to knock. Billy said that I would be coming around more often now, so there was no need. Hello, I screamed out as I closed the door behind me. I walked into the kitchen to find Billy sitting there tapping his hands. Sam, good, did you tell him? How'd he take it? He asked. Actually better than I planned, I said. Billy nodded. I looked around wondering where my Bella was. Billy must have noticed. She's up in her room, Billy said. Can I go up? I asked him. He nodded and wheeled himself outside. I climbed the stairs and walked up to Bella's door where I could hear her humming some peaceful tune. I knocked softly and waited. Come in, she replied. I walked in to find her sitting on her bed reading Wuthering Heights. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied as I sat down next to her on the bed. She looked uncomfortable, so she continued reading. So what you reading? I asked, he not knowing what to say to my imprint. Wuthering Heights. It's my favorite book. I've read it more than 100 times. Have you read it? She asked. No. Is it good? I asked her. It's not good, it's great. It's so romantic and everything. You probably wouldn't like it, she said. Why would you think I wouldn't like it? I asked with a smirk on my face. You, just, don't look like the sort of romantic guy, she shrugged. Hey, I should Saint let you know that I am a very romantic person, I said. If you say so, she said before going back to reading the book. I am, I said. Prove it, she said. I will personally take you out to dinner tomorrow night to a fancy restaurant. What do you say? I said. Tomorrow night. Deal, she said while sticking out her hand. I shook it and walked out of the room, leaving her to read her book. I was about to walk back downstairs when my name got called. Bella. I turned around and she threw something at me. A book. Wuthering Heights. I suggest you start reading, she giggled. Will do, I said as I headed back downstairs. When I got downstairs, Jacob was sitting there scoffing his face with corn chips while Billy just sat there watching the daily fishing show. How'd it go? Jacob asked as I came and sat down next to him. Fine. Oh, and Billy, is it okay if I take Bella out for dinner tomorrow night? I asked him. He took his eyes off the TV and looked at me for a minute before nodding and then going back to watching TV. Cool. So I'll see you tomorrow night, I said. Bye, Bella, I screamed. Bye, she screamed back. I smiled and exited the house. I made sure Bella wasn't watching out the window before I ran into the forest and phased. Sam, Jared said. Where have you been, man? Quill asked. I am printed, I said while showing them a picture of Bella through my mind. Congratulations, man, Embry said. Thanks, I replied. Have you told her about imprinting yet? Quill asked. Sort of. I thinks he overheard me and Billy talking about it. We thought she was asleep, but I think she was awake and listening to what we were saying. So I think she has an idea, I said. Wow, Jared. Hey, is it okay if I go and see Claire, Sam? Quill asked. Yep, I'll take over for you, I said as I ran to where Quill was. Thanks. Cool. Imprinting must have made him nicer, Paul snickered. Shut it, Paul, I snarled back at him. Whatever, he mumbled. Hey man, what did Jake and Billy say about it? Jared asked. They were cool. Jacob was a little bit in shock when I told them. Did he phase? Paul asked. Yes, Paul, he did, I said. I would have, though he would have ripped you to shreds. Embry said. That's what I thought. He didn't. Billy was most understanding about it, I said to him while I flashed through a couple of pictures of my Bella. Okay. Thanks for the pictures of Bella. We don't all feel the same way about her as you do. So just keep the pictures to yourself, would you? Paul said. Shut it, Paul, Seth said. Seth has always been the supportive one out of the pack. He was always happy. Sam, you can go home, I'll do Quill's patrol, Seth said. Thanks, I said before I ran to the Black's house where I watched my Bella all night. Guarding her, making sure no one would ever hurt my Bella. Sam's paw. Today's the day that I take my beautiful Bella on our first date. I wanted to prove to her that I loved her and I could be romantic. I read Wuthering Heights, which was her favorite book. I read the whole thing. I normally would have just read the first page and fallen asleep, but I kept thinking of what Bella would think of me if I didn't read it. It was 6.00 and I was picking her up at 7.00. One more hour until I would see my Bella again. I couldn't wait. I was planning to take her to Seaside View, not a real place, near La Push Beach, where I would tell her about werewolves after dinner. I have to admit that I was pretty scared about telling her. I kept reminding myself to be cool. Imprints always fall for you. I was wearing black jeans, with no holes in them, and a black, stripped t-shirt. I put some links on and went downstairs to scoff my face before I went. I figured that if I ate before I went to the restaurant I wouldn't eat so much there. I ate 2 pies, 8 boxes of fish fingers and a bag of salt and vinegar chips while I watched the news. Okay, it's 5 to 7, time to leave. I grabbed Bella's book and put it in my black truck. I pulled out of He driveway and headed along the road until I came to the Black's house where all the lights were on. I put the red roses that I had placed in the back seat of the truck before I left into the passing seat so when she hoped in she would find them. I rang the doorbell and waited for someone to answer it. Hey Sam. Bella will be right down. We gave her the jab a couple of hours ago so she's a little tired still, Billy said. Oh, right, I forgot about that, I said. Yeah, well come on inside, Billy said. Wow Sam. If I was a girl I would totally date you dude, Jacob said from the couch. Hello to you to Jacob. And I'm going to pretend that you never said that, I smirked. I sat down next to him and opened a can of beer that was scattered around him. Football crap is that on tonight? I asked. Dude don't tell me you forgot, Jacob said as he laughed at me. Ha ha ha, at least I have a girl unlike you, I laughed right back at him. Yeah, just remember that that's my little sister you're dating, he reminded me. Jake. Shannon got out again. Bella screamed from upstairs. Shit, Jacob screamed. Jacob ran upstairs with me following behind him. We walked up there to find Bella standing on his bed wearing a black mini dress and some high-heel shoes. She had her hands covering her eyes. I walked up to Bella and lifted her off Jacob's bed. Now would someone like to tell me who the hell Shannon is? I asked. Shannon is Jake's pet. She's a white-tail spider. She's like the size of my fist, Bella squealed while Jacob was running around his room like a man-woman calling Shannon. Where'd you get it? I asked him. I found it when I was coming back from patrol a couple of weeks ago, Jacob said as he looked under his bed. Jacob Black, get your butt down here now. Billy screamed from downstairs. Aw Dad, I'm kind of in the middle of something right now. Bells, can you go down and see what he wants? Jacob said. She huffed and walked downstairs. Ah, someone screamed from downstairs. Bella. We ran down there to see Billy sitting there still as can be. Dad, what are you doing? Jacob asked. I swear to God Jacob, I am going to kill that stupid spider, Billy snarled. Bella tried to flick Shannon off Billy's shoulder. As soon as she had flicked it off it started to crawl up her leg. Jacob, get it off, she screamed. I ran over to her and grabbed the spider by its leg and chucked it to Jacob, who caught it. Did they hurt you, Shannon? He said. Dick, Bella mumbled. I heard that, and so did Shannon. Now I want all of you to apologize to her, Jacob said. What F? Or we didn't do anything, Bella said while rolling her eyes. Yes you did. You all hurt my little baby, Jacob said. Sorry, Bella said. Sorry, Billy said. Sorry, I said. Good. Now if you will excuse me, I have to go give her a bath, Jacob said before grabbing a bear and walking upstairs. He's mental, Bella said. He better sleep with one eye open because I'm going in there tonight and grabbing tea. Hat little hairy beast and sticking it in the pan then frying it for his breakfast tomorrow morning, Bella snarled. We all laughed. Hey Bella, Shannon's going to borrow your pink nail polish. Jacob screamed from upstairs where you could hear him walking through the hallway. No she isn't, Bella screamed as she raced upstairs. Well, that was fun, Billy said. I laughed and sat down at the table. Are you planning to tell her tonight? Billy asked. Yeah, I replied. All right, I am ready to go, Bella said as she entered the room. I didn't notice how beautiful she was until she walked into the room. "Goodbye, Jacob," Bella screamed upstairs. "Bye," he screamed back. "See you, honey," Billy said as she kissed his cheek. "See ya," I said as I grabbed Bella's hand and walked out the door. I opened the door for her and she saw the roses on the seat. "How sweet," she said before grabbing them and sitting them on her lap. I smiled at myself and then hopped into the truck myself and drove off. Bella's paw. When we arrived at the restaurant, he opened his door and then ran around to mine to open it. "Ah, a gentleman," I smirked as I hopped out of the car. "Always," Sam replied as her shut the door. We walked up to the double doors and opened them for me, again. I smiled as we walked up to the counter. "Reservation for Yuli," he said. The lady nodded and eyed Sam. "Yes, right this way," she said. She sat us at a table with 2 seats across from each other. We sat down and I picked up the menu that was in front of me. It had loads of food on it. I looked down and found what I wanted. I smiled as I thought of what it would taste like. "What are you smiling about?" Sam asked playfully. "Nothing," I replied as I looked at what else was on the list. "Come on, tell me," he asked as he sat his menu down on the table in front of him. "I was just thinking about how good the pasta was going to be." "All right," I said. "Is that all you're eating?" he asked. I nodded and he seemed shocked. "Why?" I asked as I sat mine down too. "Because I am having triple that," he laughed. "Triple? What are you ordering?" I asked him as we continued to laugh. "Steak, spaghetti and bacon and cheese toasted sandwich," he replied. I just sat there with my mouth hanging open. "You're kidding me," I said in disbelief. He shrugged and picked up his menu again, but I just had to let it out. I laughed so hard my eyes were starting to water. "What?" he asked. I shook my head and continued to laugh at him. "What's so funny?" he asked. "Nothing," I said as I calmed myself down. He continued to look at me with squinty eyes. "Tell me," he moaned. "Okay, fine. I was just laughing at how much you remind me of Jake, that's all." "You both eat so much," I said as the waiter came up to the table. "Are you ready to order?" he asked. He looked about my age. He had spiky black hair with one earring in his right ear. Instead of looking at my face, he was staring at my chest. I swear I heard a growl come from his chest. "Yes, ladies first," he growled at him. "Ah, I will have the pasta please," I said. He took his eyes off my chest and looked at Sam, who was sending him daggers. "I will have the steak with a hint of mint, spaghetti with a little bit of sauce and bacon and cheese toasted sandwich with a few chopped up pieces of onion," Sam said. I laughed while the man whose name tag read, Greg, looked confused. "Ah, sir, could you repeat that fo? Me please," Greg said as he wrote things down and scribbled them out again. "Okay, listen carefully this time. I will have the steak with a hint of mint, spaghetti with a little bit of sauce and bacon, and cheese toasted sandwich with a few chopped up pieces of onion," Sam said again. "Ah, okay, your food will be here soon," he said before taking his eyes off the paper. He looked at Sam one more time, then to my chest again. This time Sam said something. "Do you always look at women that way? Or is it just Bella?" Sam said. What? No, he said. He looked really confused. I said, "Do you always look at women that way? Or just my Bella?" He repeated. I swear I just heard him say my Bella. But then could be hearing things. "What's going on, Gregory?" a man in a suit said while coming up to us. He must be the manager. Nothing, boss," Greg said. He was looking at my Bella's chest. Sam yelled in Greg's face. "Gregory, is that true? Do you look at this woman's chest?" he asked. "No," he mumbled. Sam started to shake a lot. He grabbed Greg by the shirt and flung him across the room, and he hit the table full of food which flew everywhere. Sam walked up to him while the manager just stood there. He grabbed him by the shirt again while all of the customers just sat there scared of the crazy man who was flinging people across the room with their bare hands. "Sam, stop!" I screamed as I ran up to him and released his hands from Greg's shirt. Sam, let's go, I said as I grabbed his hand and tried to pull him out of the restaurant. No, not until he says sorry, Sam screamed as he ripped out of my grip. But as he pulled out of my grip, I swear my wrist ripped open. I swore and then walked up to them again. Look, man, just say sorry, I said to Greg, who was just standing there scared out of his mind of the man who was standing over him with a good grip of his shirt. Is sorry, he stuttered. Okay, thank you. Look, he said. Sorry, Sam, let's go, I said as he started to shake so fast that I could hardly see him. I grabbed his arm that was vibrating so fast. Sam, stop shaking, I said to him. His shaking started to stop but not completely. Let's go, he mumbled. I suggest that you fire him, Sam said as we walked past the manager. We walked outside and he pulled me to the beach. Where are we going? I want to go home, I said as he continued to pull me. I have to tell you, Summit. Hing, Sam said as he continued to pull me down the sandy beach. He was still shaking a little but not as bad. Sam, I just want to go home, I said, getting annoyed. No, Bella, I really have to tell you something, he said as he dropped my wrist. I looked at it and saw the red ring around it. Look, what I'm about to tell you must be our secret. Jacob and Billy know and everything, Sam said. I was starting to get scared. He closed his eyes and took deep breaths in and out. Okay, what's the big secret? I asked. We're werewolves, he said. I stared at him and noticed that he would have started laughing as soon as he said it. But he didn't. Are you serious? I asked him. He nodded but didn't look at me. Cool, I mumbled. He looked up at me. Cool, he laughed playfully. You, my dear, are a very weird girl, Sam said before pulling me into a hug. I leant onto his chest and I all of a sudden felt tired. I closed my eyes and let sleep take over me. Sam's paw. I pulled her into a hug, but a few moments later she fell limp in my arms. She must be asleep. I smiled and picked her up bridal style and put her into the car and put my jacket over her. I put her head on my lap and let her sleep. We arrived at Billy's house and saw Jacob waiting on the front porch. I picked her up and took her inside. Take her up to her room, Jacob said. "'Kay," I said as I carried her upstairs. I laid her down on her bed and tucked her in. I kissed her forehead. Sweet dreams, my Bella. I woke up in the same clothes as last night. All I remember was my Sam. Hang on, wait, my Sam, where did that come from? Anyway, all I remember was my Sam telling me that he and the rest of his friends are werewolves. Bella, are you awake? Jake called from outside my door. Yeah, I said as I sat up in bed. He came in with a cup of Milo for me. So, did Sam tell you about, you know what? He asked me as he came down and sat next to me on the bed. I nodded and took a sip out of the cup. And, are you okay with it? He asked me. Why was he so nervous? Yeah, it's all good. Weird, but all good. And stop acting so nervous, I said playfully. He smiled at me then started to frown. What? I asked him. He looked down and then back up to me. Did Sam tell you anything else? He asked. Nope. Why? I said as I took another big gulp of Milo. Nothing. See you when you get back downstairs, he said as he started to head out the door. Hey Jake, what's imprinting? I said as he was about to exit my room. He stopped and turned back to me. Did Sam say something about it? He said. I shook my head. No, I overheard and Dad talking the other day about telling me about imprinting, I said as I drank the rest of the Milo. Bella, it's not really my place to tell you, Jake said as he left the room. Jacob's paw. Bella, are you awake? I called from outside her door. Yeah, she said as I came in and handed her the Milo that was in my hands. So, did Sam tell you about, you know what? I asked her as I sat down next to her on her bed. She nodded and took a sip out of the cup. And, are you okay with it? I asked her. Yeah, it's all good. Weird, but all good. And stop acting so nervous, she said playfully. I smiled at her then started to frown. What? She asked me. I looked down and then back up to her. Did Sam tell you anything else? I asked. Nope. Why? Bella said as she took another big gulp of Milo. Ah. Nothing. See you when you get back downstairs, I said as I started to head out the door. Hey Jake. What's imprinting? She said as I was about to exit her room. I stopped and turned back to her. Did Sam say something about it? I said. She shook her head. No. I overheard Sam and Dad talking the other day about telling me about imprinting, she said as she drank the rest of the Milo. Ah, Bella, it's not really my place to tell you, I said. They said it's like love at first sight. As soon as you look into each other's eyes you fall in love, she said. Again Bella, it's not my place to tell you, I said calmly as I left the room. I walked downstairs to find Billy sitting at the dining room table with Seth, Quill, Embry and Jared. As soon as I entered the room they all went quiet. I looked at them and then sat down next to Billy. She knows about the whole wolf thing, and has a fair idea about the whole imprinting thing, I said. What? Someone screamed from behind us. I turned around to be faced with a shaking Sam. Sam, calm down, Billy said. How did she find out? Sam said. She overheard you and Billy talking to each other about it the other day, I said. I knew she was awake, Sam huffed. He was about to say something else when Bella came downstairs in some jeans and a shirt. Morning, she said as she opened the pantry. Bella, would you like to go for a walk with me? Sam asked her. She turned around and looked at him then to everyone else. Ah, I'm sort of hungry, she whined. Bella, go, Billy screamed at her. Okay. No need to snap, she said as she grabbed a chocolate block out of the pantry. She pulled on her jumper and boots and then walked out the door with Sam following closely behind her. Sam's paw. She knows about the whole wolf thing, and has a fair idea about the whole imprinting thing, Jacob said as I walked through the Blacks' door. What? I screamed from behind them. I started to shake, really bad. How did she find out about this? Sam, calm down, Billy said. How did she find out? I said. She overheard you and Billy talking to each other about it the other day, Jacob said. I knew she was awake, I huffed. I was about to say nothing else when my Bella came downstairs in some jeans and a shirt. Morning, she said as she opened the pantry. Bella, would you like to go for a walk with me? I asked her. She turned around and looked at me then to everyone else. Ah, I'm sort of hungry, she whined. Bella, go, Billy screamed at her. Why did he scream at her? I should have ripped his head off for yelling at my Bella like that. Okay. No need to snap, she said as she grabbed a chocolate block out of the pantry. She pulled on her jumper and boots and then walked out the door with me closely following behind. Once we were about 5 minutes into the walk, Bella was still munching on the chocolate she was holding. Ah, so about the whole werewolf imprinting thing. You're probably confused, I said as I rubbed the back of my neck. She looked at me as we continued down the beach. Nope, she said as she popped the pea. I laughed nervously. Really? Do you want to ask any questions? I asked her. She stopped and took a seat on the sand. I sat down next to her and watched her stare out to sea. How do you imprint? She asked. Well, you see, when you're a werewolf you have like a soulmate. You one true love, nothing matters about anyone else but them. And as soon as you look at them, you imprint. You can't live without them. You're practically dead without them around, I said. She nodded. Can I ask you a question? I said. She looked at me and nodded. What did you feel like when you imprinted on me? I asked her. Well, it was strange, it was like a weird invisible rope pulling me towards you and everything, she said. I nodded. That's how I felt when I imprinted on her, except mine was much stronger. Could it be that the alpha's imprinting is stronger than his imprints? Sam's paw. I walked her back, to the Black's house where she walked straight into the kitchen and grabbed a piece of toast out of Jake's plate. She popped herself on his lap. She knows that I imprinted on her, so why is she sitting on Jacob's lap like that? God, how I wish I could be him. Well, this is awkward, Bella whispered to Seth, who was sitting next to Jacob. He nodded and continued eating just like everyone else did. Sam, come outside with me, Billy said as he wheeled himself out the back door. I looked back and saw Jacob grin at me while Bella gave me an apologetic. I walked outside to see Billy looking at the gray clouds. You do know that I will kill you if you ever hurt Bella, right? Billy said as he turned himself to face me. I looked down and nodded. But you're not, Billy said. Of course, I would never hurt her in any way, I said. He nodded. I'm happy you found your imprint. I little mad that it was Bella, but I'll get used to it, Billy laughed. I smiled and looked back up at him. His face didn't look so angry like it did before. He looked happy for me that I had found my true love. He wheeled himself back into the house with me following behind him. When we walked in, I saw Bella throwing little pieces of toast into Embry's mouth, who was sitting on the other side of the room. I laughed and grabbed a piece of toast and sat down a few chairs from Bella. She reached over, grabbed the juice when I saw red rings around her wrists. I spat my toast out and grabbed her arms, which nearly made her fly across the table. Jeepers, what the hell was that for? Bella whined. I looked at them and Hen remembered that it was me who did that. After we came out of the restaurant, I pulled her by the wrists to the beach. It was me who had done this to fragile Bella. I had hurt my imprint, Bella. I had injured her. I could feel my heart ripping open. I started to shake, rather badly. Sam, calm down, man, Jacob yelled. I couldn't. I could see Seth pulling Bella out of the room. I ran outside and into the forest, where I phased and started running. Sam, stop running, man, Jared said. I growled. Sam, stop it, Quill yelled in my head. He showed me pictures of Bella laughing at the dinner table when me and Billy were outside having a talk. You have to stop phasing. Bella's starting to get scared of you. And I'm pretty sure that's the worst thing that could happen to us, Jacob said. I whined and nodded. I trotted back to the Black's house. Bella's paw. I threw little pieces of bread into Embry's mouth while my Sam, hang on, where did my Sam come from? Sam and Billy walked in and sat down. Well, technically Dad was already seated. Sorry, just had to write that. I reached over to grab the juice when Sam suddenly grabbed my hand, which nearly made me belly flop onto the table. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Sam, who was starting to shake. Jeepers, what the hell was that for? I whined. He was staring at my red rings that were around both my wrists. I hadn't even noticed them. His shaking became more faster. Seth ripped his grip off my wrist and pulled me out of the room and upstairs to my room. Stay here until someone comes to get you, Seth said. I nodded and walked over to my window just in time to see Sam running outside and into the forest, where I saw him shred his clothes and turn into a big, black wolf. I huffed and turned back around. I sat down at my desk and waited for them to come back. I could hear growling coming from the forest, which made me scared for Sam and the rest of the boys. I knew Jake had gone out there to try and stop Sam from doing something stupid. But they were my two best guys. I mean, I can be worried, can't I? I heard a knock at my door. Come in, I said as I turned myself so I was facing the door. Sam walked in with one of Jake's pair of jeans on. Hey, he said as he came and sat on the end of my bed. Hey, I said, look, I'm sorry about how I grabbed your wrists. I didn't know I had hurt you. You should have told me that it'd done it, he said. I shook my head while laughing. I didn't even know it was there. I laughed as his eyes widened at me. How could you not? Look at the size of it. And I'm also sorry for nearly phasing back there. I should have thought of your safety if I had phased, he said. I shrugged. Things happen, I said. We sat there for a few minutes just talking, then out of nowhere he decided to kiss me. It was a passionate kiss. His tongue was sliding across my bottom lip, waiting for an entrance. I opened my mouth and his tongue flew into mine just like mine did to his. His lips were so warm. His lips molded into my lips while caused me to feel lightheaded. His hands were on my back while mine were tangled into his short hair. We pulled back and pushed our foreheads together. That was so good, he moaned as he gave me a soft peck on the lips. He grabbed my hand and pulled me downstairs to where the rest of my family was. Sam's paw. I walked up to the Black's house and saw Bella's car gone. I began to worry. Billy obviously saw it as soon as I entered the house. She's gone to the shops, he said while he wheeled himself to the TV where Jacob was sitting. I have to tell you something, I said. They switched the TV off and faced me. The Cullens are back. Bella's paw. The next morning I drove to Forks, which was my hometown until my family. No, Bella, you will not think about your horrible family. You have a new one now. Forget Charlie and Renee. I drove up to the mini mart and hoped out of my car that I had brought myself a couple of months ago. I walked in and suddenly crashed into someone. I was waiting to hit the ground when a pair of cold, hard hands went under me and caught me. I opened my eyes to be faced with a bronze god. I'm so sorry. I should watch where I'm going next time, I said as I picked up my handbag that was lying on the ground. But he bet me to it. Here, he smiled as he handed me it back. My name's Edward Cullen. I just moved here from Wellington, New Zealand yesterday, he said as he held out his hand for me to shake. I put my handbag over my shoulder and shook his hand. You should wear gloves. You're freezing, I said. He laughed and nodded. Yeah, I probably should. Would you like help with your shopping? He asked. Sure, why not? I said as he followed me into the mini mart. I grabbed 3 bottles of Coke which I placed in the trolley that Edward was pushing. A 24-pack of beer for Jake and Billy and the rest of the boys. You like beer? He asked. No way. It's for my brother and his friends, I said. While he just nodded. What's your brother's name? Edward asked as I placed some eggs and bread into the trolley. Jacob, I answered. Oh, cool, he said. We walked through the rest of the shop in quiet. It was an odd quiet. Every time I looked at him he looked like he was thinking about something really hard. I brought everything I thought I would need. Do you have any brothers or sisters? I asked as we walked up to the checkout. He zoned back in suddenly. Yeah, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, he answered. Wow, full house huh? I laughed. He nodded and started loading things into the bags. We walked out of the shop and back to my car. Thanks for helping me, I said as I loaded the last bag into the boot. My pleasure, he smiled. His teeth were so white. He grabbed out his cell phone and presses a few buttons. Add your number, he said. I grabbed out mine and let him add his to mine. We hugged and walked away. I hopped into the car and pulled out. I passed the "Welcome to La Push" sign and pulled into the driveway. Sam and Jake ran out and pulled me into a hug. Miss me that much, did you? I laughed. I heard a growl build up in both their chest. What? I asked. Where did you go? Jake growled. Shopping. Oh, and could you both do me a favor and unload the bags? Thanks, I said as I kissed both their cheeks. Jacob's paw. She smells like vampire, I growled. A Cullen. What shop did she go to? Sam asked me. Somewhere in Forks, I replied. He was starting to shake, badly might I add. Sam, calm down. Do you think Bells ran into one of them while she was shopping? I said. He nodded and continued to breath in and out. Okay, I'm going to go talk to her while you go and cool off, I said. He shook his head. I'm fine. Seeing Bella should hopefully calm me down, he said as he walked inside. God, I never want to end up like that when I imprint, I mumbled to myself. Jake's paw. After me and Sam had brought in the groceries from the car, Bella started to unpack them. Me and Sam walked into the kitchen and sat down at the dining room table that was attached to the kitchen. Hey Bella, did you run into anyone in Forks? Sam asked. She stopped what she was doing. How do you know I ran into someone? She said. Sam and me both looked at each other and then answered. You know how fast gossip comes and goes around here. We just wanted to know who you were talking to, I said. She shrugged and continued to unpack. His name was Edward. Edward, what was his last name? She said. Me and Sam both looked at each other. I started to shake. I can't believe that my baby sister was friends with a vampire. I could feel Sam shaking next to me. Bella turned around and saw both of us shaking, which was causing the table to start rocking. She walked out from behind the counter and around to us. She gave me a quick hug which calmed me down and then gave Sam a hug too. Why is it such a bad thing that I'm friends with Edward? He seemed nice enough, Bella sighed. I was about to say Somethy. When her phone rang in her jean pocket. She flipped it open and pressed the green answer button. Hello, she said. Hey Bella, it's Edward, you know from the supermarket, he said. That's Edward Cullen. I'm going to kill him. Sam snatched the phone off her and started talking. Listen here bloodsucker. Don't go near Bella or LaPush. The border line is still there and remember what happens if you go over it. He said into the phone. Bella was trying to grab the phone off him but instead he just hugged her tightly to his chest so she couldn't go anywhere or talk. War. The bloodsucker said. Yes, war. Oh, and tell Carlisle that it would be nice that next time he gave us a bit of warning that you were coming back to town, Sam said as he flipped the phone closed. What the heck was all that about? Bella screamed and snatched the phone back. Let's just say that the Pack and the Cullens go way back, I said. What the heck did he mean? The Pack and the Cullens go way back. Were they mental? I finally found a friend. Outside the Pack, and then they go and ruin it. Guys are so annoying. Bella, are you listening? Sam said as he shook my shoulders. No, I said as I laid my arms down on the table and rested my head on top of them. Bella, come on, don't be like that, Sam whined. He can be such a baby sometimes. I'm going out, I said as I grabbed my Vivienne Westwood black jacket and pulled on my Mia Marie woman's boots that were by the front door. Bella, don't go. Come on, I don't mind you making friends. Just not the Cullens, he said. I shook my head and slammed the door in his face and I ran down to my blue Holden Monero convertible which was parked on the driveway. Bella, come back inside, Sam yelled from the porch. I ignored him and continued to get into the car. I backed out of the driveway and looked back over to the house to see Sam screaming something into the phone. I pulled into the parking lot to the park in Forks. I hopped out and walked over to the swings that was completely deserted. I sat down and slowly started swinging. The rain was pouring down on my hard, but I continued to keep swinging. Hi, a pixie-looking girl said as she stood in front of me. Hey, I whispered. She had a big black umbrella covering her from the bucketing down rain that was pouring over Forks. My name's Alice Cullen. You know my brother Edward, she said. I looked up at her and nodded. Yeah, I said. Would you like me to take you home? She asked. I shook my head. Okay. How about you tell me what happened, she said. I just had a fight with my boyfriend, I whispered as she nodded. Do you want to come shopping with me? She blurted out. I laughed and nodded. She pulled me up and chucked me into her yellow Porsche that was parked there. Yay, my new shopping buddy, she squealed. I laughed and thought, no one is going to stop me from being friends with the Cullens. And I mean no one. Bella's paw. After Alice's shopping trip I came home with 8 bags full of clothes. I have never tried on so many clothes in my life. I walked inside and got suffocated by Jake who was squishing me into his chest. Yeah Sam. She's here. No, she just got in. No she do. Escent look hurt. Fine, Billy said before he hung up. BB where were you? Jake asked as he grabbed my face in his big, warm hands. Went shopping as you can see, I said. Can you let go of my face? I asked. He mumbled a sorry and walked into the other room. I walked upstairs and put all of my new clothes away and walked back downstairs and got squished again. Why does this keep happening to me? Quote, Bella, I'm never letting you out of my sight, Sam yelled in my ear. My killer headache. from Alice squealing in delight as she found a pair of shoes she loved. Tear formed in my eyes and Sam hugged me to his chest. I was out with Alice, I whimpered into his chest. He stiffened. I swear to God, Sam, if you blow a fuse again I will walk out on you again, I yelled. I started to shake. Some of the bones in my body started to crack. Sam yelled at Jake and he came running. Sam picked me up and threw me on the ground. My clothes started to rip. I screamed and phased into a golden werewolf. All of my bones stopped cracking and felt normal. Bella, are you okay? Someone said. I only just noticed that I was surrounded by nearly 5 other wolves. Bells, it's me, Jake, a rusty-looking wolf said. Shit, 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 shit. Paul, can you go back to the house and grab some clothes for Bella? What, was that Sam? Yeah, Bells, it's me, Sam said as he trotted over and started to rub the side of my neck. That feels funny, I giggled. Everyone laughed, which caused me to fall over from all the booming noise in my head. Shit, guys, shut up, Sam said. I stood up and shook off all of the dirt. Haul Cam down and into the forest and handed me my pair of skinny jeans and t-shirt. Okay, so how do I phase? I asked. You need to think of happy thoughts. But before you do, you may want to go behind a tree where no one can see you. Because when you phase back naked, Seth said. I nodded and walked behind a tree. I heard everyone else phase. Okay, Bella, think of happy stuff. I thought of Sam, nothing happened. I thought of Billy and Jake, nothing happened. I thought of hot dogs. That worked, I mumbled as I pulled on my clothes. I walked out from behind the tree to see everyone standing there waiting for me. I walked over to Sam and he pulled me into a hug just like Jake did. Okay, we need to set some rules here. You're not allowed to go on the Cullens' land, Sam said. Do they have a sign somewhere that says, the Cullens' land, do not enter? I said sarcastically. Jake shook his head. Nah, you will just know. You'll get hit. Was a really disgusting stench, he said. I nodded and then remembered when I was at the shops with Alice and I smelt something that smelt like stinky feet. By any chance does it smell like stinky feet? I asked. They all looked at each other and nodded. Oh, that was gross. But when I asked Alice what the smell was, she just looked at me and told me I would find out soon, I said. Looks like you have. We haven't met, another boy said. He looked like everyone else but a little shorter. I'm Colin and this is Brady, Colin said as he came over and hugged me just like Brady did. They were so small and cute. I just wanted to squish them. And I'm sure you LL meet Embry and Jared sooner or later. Sam smiled and he came up behind me and snuggled into the side of my neck. I'm hungry, I whined like a 5-year-old. They all looked at each other and nodded, then looked back at me. I shook my head while the rest of them nodded. I huffed and stomped out of the forest and back into the house where Billy was sitting. Bella, come here, darling, Dad said as he pulled me into a hug. I asked him if he wanted something to eat and he, of course, said yes. I didn't feel like cooking, so I just grabbed the phone and dialed Pizza Hut. Hi, may I take your order? The man on the other side of the phone said as the guys walked in and sat at the dinner table where Dad was sitting reading the newspaper. Yeah, I'll have 2 Hawaiian's pizzas, I said while everyone at the table cleared their throats. Sam walked over and grabbed the phone. We would also like 4 pepperoni, 4 spicy and 12 cheese-flavored pizzas please, he said. I could hear the GUY on the other side telling Sam how much that would be. $149.99. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. Sam smiled and laughed. Yeah, that's all. Bye, he said before hanging up. He pulled me into a hug. I buried my head in his chest as I let him talk. We're trying to figure out why you phased, he mumbled into my hair. What do you mean? I said as I pulled away. BB, only people who were from La Push are meant to phase. You weren't. You were from Forks, Jake explained. I nodded as I hugged Sam again. Pizza's here, Paul shouted from the living room. He ran to the door and nearly ripped the poo. Our pizza boy's arms off as he snatched the pizzas away from him. That's $149.99, please, he stuttered. I smiled and gave him the money. I was about to close the door when he stepped his foot in so it wouldn't shut. I opened the door again and waited for him to say something. But he didn't, he just stood there like an asshole staring all day. Was there something you needed? I asked. Oh, I was Jew. Saint wondering if I would be about to take this lovely woman out on a date tonight. He smirked. I smiled and leant in close to him. Fuck off, I yelled in his face. He fell backward and ran to his pizza bike and biked off. I smiled and went back to sit with my family. I walked up to bed and hopped into my PJs. We were going to watch a movie, again. After I was finished I walked into the living room to find everyone sitting there. Where's all of the food? I asked. I thought you were making it. Colin said. I shook my head and raced into the kitchen and grabbed 8 packets of chips, chocolate bars and some popcorn. I walked back in and sat down next to Jake and Sam who were in deep conversation, well, until I came and sat in the middle of them. Ready? I yelled. They all jumped and nodded. I smiled and pressed play. After the movie, I was asleep on Sam. Jake was lying his head on my lap and softly snoring. Sam had his hot arms wrapped around my waist and was buried in my hair. Kiss, kiss, hug, hug. Good night. I was lying across Sam with Jake's head on my lap. I was about to sit up, but then quickly got pulled back down into Sam's chest. I pulled his arms off me and got up and head into the kitchen where Billy was talking on the phone. I grabbed my keys and headed out to grab some breakfast for everyone. I pulled into the parking lot and hopped out. I heard someone laughing and then some crying. I looked around and saw nothing. I ran to the alleyway and saw a 2-year-old boy crying while a man started to hit him. Stop it, I yelled as I ran up to them. The man looked at me and then to the boy who had tears pouring out of his eyes. He started running at me. I growled and jumped on him. I didn't want to kill him, just hurt him for what he was doing to the little boy. I sliced his cheek which startled him and caused him to run the other way and out of sight. I looked at the little boy and ran up to him. Are you okay? I whispered to him. He nodded and snuggled into my chest. I could only see some slap marks on his arms and face. I frowned and walked out of the alleyway. Bella! Someone yelled. I turned around and saw Jake, Sam and Brady running towards me. I led and started to rock the boy back and forwards. They looked at the kid and then all of their faces went blank. I laughed and walked up to them. I saw a man hitting him. So I scared him away, I said. With my cool werewolf thing, I whispered. And here his is, I said. They looked at him and smiled. What do you think we're going to do with him, Bells? Sam said. I shrugged and started to rock him. Until his eyes closed and he fell asleep. Well, I'm going to take him up to Forks Hospital and get him checked out and then take him home. Is that okay with you? I asked them all. They all looked at each other and nodded. I smiled and decided to forget about breakfast and take him straight to the hospital. Bells, you're not allowed on the Cullens' land, they'll kill you, Brady said. I huffed and pulled out my cell phone and started to dial Edward's number. Hey Bella, he said. Hey Edward, I phased yesterday and was wondering if I could come on your land. I asked him. There was a pause and then some talking in the background. Hello Bella, my name's Carlisle Cullen, I am the leader of the coven, he said. Hi Carlisle, I was wondering if I could take a little boy to Forks Hospital to get him checked out. I said, of course, that's fine, I guess we can finally meet then. I work at the hospital so I could come in and see him if you want. He said, oh, okay then. See you then, I said. I led and then the boys huffed and walked away. Bye, I said as I headed towards my car. I placed the boy in the passenger's seat and buckled him in and headed off towards Forks. Carlisle's paw. I waited at the front of the hospital for Edward and Alice's friend, Bella. A car pulled up and a brunette girl came out and went around to the other side of the car and pulled out a boy. He started to chew on her hair that was hanging down. She carried him over to where I was. She smiled and continued to walk up to me. "Hi, are you Bella?" I asked. She looked at me and nodded. "Yeah, I found this little guy being hit by a man in an alleyway. The guy ran away and left the boy sitting there crying. He has a few slap marks on him. But I can't see any blood anywhere, so," she said. I nodded and told her to come into my office. She sat down on the chair with the child on her lap. He could have easily been her son by the way his hair is. "Okay, let's take a look," I said. I lifted up his shirt. I could see some little scars on him going up and down his stomach. "Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Bella. I think that he has been beaten for a long time. Look at all of the scars on his stomach. I don't think there will be anything to worry about. He seems fine, just a little scared. He will need someone to be there for him," I said while she nodded. "Will you be looking after him or will you be putting him up for adoption?" I asked. She took a deep breath in and then looked at the boy who was smiling at her. "I'll be keeping him," she whispered. I nodded. "Okay, well, I will find his file and tell why." "Oh, you about him," I said just as Edward and Alice walked through the door. Bella looked up and smiled. "Bella," Alice screeched. "Hey Bells." Edward saw Ed as he gave her a one-arms hug. Alice just jumped on Bella, which nearly caused her to drop Aaron. "Who's this?" Alice said as she rubbed Aaron's cheek. "This is Aaron," she said. "Okay, well Bella. Aaron Black is 2 years old and his mother died when she Avenue birthed to him and had to live with his father," I said. She nodded and stood up. She gave me a quick hug just like she did to Alice and Edward and walked off. Bella's paw. I drove home with the radio blasting and Aaron giggling. I smiled down at him as we drove in the driveway. I walked to the other side and picked him up and saw everyone on the porch looking at me with a frown all over their face. "Hi," I said as I walked into the house. "Bella, what do you think we're going to do with him?" Dad said. "Keep him," I said as I grabbed some crushed apple out of the pantry. I sat down with him on my lap and started to feed him. He gobbled it down. He must have been hungry. "BB, you're 16 years, Jake said. I shrugged and threw the container into the bin. "We'd better get you some clothes, food and toys. Let's call Alice," I said to Aaron who was sucking on my hair. "Hello," Alice said. "Hey Alice, do you feel like going shopping?" I said. I heard her screaming in the background. "Yes, yes, yes," she yelled into the phone. "Okay, where do you want to meet?" I said. "Would it be okay if I pick you up on your land or will I be attacked by fluffy werewolves?" She laughed. "Sure, see you soon," I said. I hung up and slipped my boots on. "Bella, you'd better go phase and let the guys know that the bloodsucker is coming on our land," Sam sneered. "First of all, of course I can do that, and second of all, her name is Alice," I yelled. I picked Aaron up and sat outside with him. Alice pulled up in a silver Volvo. "Wasn't that Edward's?" "Hey Alice," I said once I buckled Aaron in the back seat. "Hey, Edwa, Rhodes said that we should take his car since we're going to be doing loads of shopping," she said while she bounced up and down in her seat. I nodded and she drove off. Once we got to the mall we hopped out and went straight to the baby section. Once we were done we had gotten blankets, clothes, too many if you ask me, bottles, food, cots, changing tables, a pram and some other baby things. "Thanks APS Alice," I said as I hopped out of her car. "If you ever need help setting up the baby's room, feel free to call, and if you ever want to go shopping again call me," she screeched. I laughed and nodded. It was already 6:00. They boys will be wanting their dinner. Paul, Colin, Brady, Sam, Jake and 2 other boys who I'm picking was Embry and Junior came out and took everything in. Aaron was on my ass. Holders giggling and pulling my hair like reins. "Do you want this stuff in your room, Bells?" Colin asked. I nodded and walked into the kitchen with the food. "Well, are you going to introduce us, Bella?" Dad said as he folded the newspaper down. "Aaron, meet my dad. Dad, meet Aaron," I said as I sat Aaron on Dad's lap. "Hello," My name's Billy, Dad said as he stuck out his hand for Aaron to shake. Ah, Ron grabbed his hand and stuck his fingers in his mouth. Okay, Dad mumbled. I cooked the boys some spaghetti bolognese. Dad, can you please feed Aaron? I asked. He nodded. I walked up the stairs and saw Sam sitting on my bed. I walked over to him and sat down next to him. He had a sad face. What's wrong? I asked. Can I be honest with you? He said. I nodded and he continued. I don't like all tea. He attention you're giving to Aaron, as you like to call him, Sam said. I laughed and sat on his lap. He's a baby. You have to give him attention or he will start to cry, I said. He nodded. I know. ISCARED that we will have no future if you keep hanging around a 1-year-old, Sam said. He's 2, Sam, and I would never give up on you for Aaron. I love you both so much, I said as I snuggled into his neck. "Kay, you'd better go have a shower," he said. I nodded and walked out of the room and into the bathroom. I walked downstairs and saw Sam asleep on the couch with little Aaron in his arms snoring softly. I smiled and walked into the kitchen to find Jake sitting there all alone staring at the blank wall. "Hey, what's wrong?" I asked him as I grabbed a Primo from the fridge. He suddenly snapped out of his thoughts and looked at me. "Nothing. Just thinking about something. Sam and myself have thought this over a lot, and we think that you shouldn't need to go out and do patrols every day," he said. I looked at him and my mouth accidentally dropped open. "Why?" I asked. "Because for a starters, you're the alpha's girlfriend, and then you're the beta's sister, and then you have to be there for Aaron and all. So we decided to let you live a normal life," Jacob said. I slowly closed my mouth and nodded. I heard a faint cry in the living room and saw Aaron with his eyes wide open staring at me with his tiny little arms reaching for me. I walked over and picked him up and started to rock him back to sleep. His eyes slowly closed and his head laid softly against my shoulder. I turned around and saw Jake standing there smirking. "She's good," he mumbled. I smiled and walked over to Sam and gave him a peck on the cheek, and then I gave a hug to Jake and walked upstairs and took Aaron in to my bedroom and changed him into some pajamas. I turned around and saw Sam standing there. "Shit," I whispered. "Don't do that," I said. "Sorry. And you shouldn't really be using that language around Aaron," he smirked. "Well, I wouldn't have to if you hadn't scared me," I said. He laughed and I handed him Aaron and walked into the bathroom, stripped and put on my pajamas and walked back into the RO. To find Aaron in the cot and Sam lying in the bed wearing only a pair of boxes. I walked to the other side of the bed and snuggled next to Sam. "Night," I said. I felt his lips touch my head. "Good night," he whispered back to me as I fell into a peaceful, deep sleep. Bella's paw. I woke up the next morning at 4:00 because of Aaron crying in his crib that a few feet away from my bed. I smiled and got up and picked him up. He instantly stopped crying and rested his head on my shoulder. I rocked him back to sleep and his eyes closed soon afterwards. I laid him back in his cot and slipped under my covers once again next to Sam. Next morning, I felt something tugging on my hair. I opened my eyes and saw Sam lying there next to me smirking while Aaron was chewing on my hair. I sat up and sat Aaron on my lap. I had no idea why, but it felt as though it was going to be a good day. "Morning," I said to Sam, who was walking over to the window. He opened up the blinds and let the sun shine in. I gasped and smiled at the bright light that was filling the room. "There's sun," I squealed. I hopped up and raced to the window with Aaron on my waist. "Do you want to go down to the beach?" Sam asked as he came and snuggled into the side of my neck. I nodded and handed Aaron to Sam. "Can you take him down for breakfast? There's some baby food in the fridge, and ask Dad how to make his milk," I said. I kissed him on the cheek and grabbed my clothes and ran out of the room. "You know, I'm not that stupid, Bells," Sam called behind me. I giggled and stopped to reply to my man. "Never said you were," I said, knowing he could hear me. I smiled and turned on the shower. I was only in for 5 minutes when I felt someone's hands wrap around my stomach. I turned around and saw Sam standing there. I smiled, knowing what was about to happen. I woke up the next morning, not sore at all. "Morning," Sam said as he kissed me up my neck and down my arm. "I'm hungry," I said out of the blue. Sam stopped and looked at me then laughed. "What?" I said playfully. "That was completely random." He laughed as he pulled his pants on. "I'm a random person," I said. I pulled my sundress on with my bikini underneath and then I slipped on some jandals. I walked downstairs and saw Aaron sitting on Sam's lap playing with Sam's car keys. Aaron was still in his PJs, so I took him upstairs and put on some board shorts on him and a sun vest. I grabbed his army hat and placed it on his head. I grabbed 4 towels knowing that Sam would need 2 to dry off his entire body. I headed downstairs with Aaron, who was playing with my curls. "Bells, I might come down too," Dad said. I nodded. "Ready," I said to Sam. He nodded and we headed out of the door. Sam carried Aaron while I carried my beach bag. As soon as we got to beach, Sam wanted to go and quickly cheek on the boys who were patrolling. I said okay and he ran into the forest. I slipped off my dress and jandals. I laid down the picnic mat and sat Aaron on it. But he decided not to stay on the mat. He just went straight towards the water where I was heading. Dad sat there on the mat reading the newspaper. "Mama." I turned around and saw Aaron sitting there with tears streaming down his face. "Do you want to come too?" I asked him as I picked him up. He nodded and smiled. I took him to the end of the water and let him feel how cold it was. "Mama," he screeched as he held onto me tightly. "It's okay. Come on," I said as I stood in the water. I hugged him tightly to my chest to keep him warm. My temperature should keep him nice and toasty. There were no waves today, which was good. I saw Sam coming out of the forest wearing his board shorts. He dived into the water and swam up to us. I put Aaron's little air-filled wings on his arms so he could float by himself. "Hey," he said. "Were they okay?" I asked him. He nodded. "Jacob said that he's going to come down soon," he said before he gave me a peck on the lips. "Speaking of the devil," Sam said. I looked over to the shore to see Jake standing there in his boxes with all the girls who were on the beach staring at him. He hopped in and then ran out screaming. "It's cold," he squealed like a girl. I laughed and got a mouthful of water. I spat it out and it landed straight into Sam's face. "Oh, no you didn't," he said while smirking. "Okay, can I just say first that it was an accident," I said. He shook his head and grabbed a handful of water and chucked it at me. I looked at him with narrowed eyes. I turned around and swam towards the big cliff where I saw Quill and Embry standing at the top. "Baby, I'm sorry," Sam said. I quickly got out of the water and ran up to the cliff and met with Quill and Embry. I could hear Sam shouting at me from the water down below. "Bella, don't you dare," Sam yelled. I stood at the water's edge with Quill and Embry next to me. "I bet you $20 that you're to listen to silly little Sam and not jump," Embry said. I smirked and did a triple flip off the cliff and landed in the water nicely. I swam back to Sam, who was starting to shake. "Oh, calm down you worry wart," I laughed and I gave him a hug. "Don't do that ever again," he said as he gritted his teeth together. I logged head and kissed his neck and made my way up to his ear where I started to suck on his lobe. "Bella, I'm hungry," Jake whined from the beach. "Oh, shut up you baby," I said. "Come on," I said before pulling Sam towards the beach where Aaron was playing with Quill's imprint Claire. "Mama," Aaron and Claire said together. "Ah, Claire, you know I'm not your mum, right?" I asked her. She looked at me and shook her head and climbed onto my lap. I saw Embry and Quill come over. "Embry, I think you owe me some money," I said to him. He suddenly started to run down the beach. I sat Aaron and Claire down and chased after him while trying to dodge all the girls on the beach. "Embry, I will hunt you down, boy," I yelled as we ran to the cliffs. "Nowhere to run," I smirked. He chucked me $20 and jumped. I laughed and walked back down. "Excuse me, is that guy over there like your boyfriend?" a fake blonde said. I looked at her and saw she was talking about Sam. This could be fun. No, we're friends, I said as I began to walk off. Can you give this to him? She said as she handed me a piece of paper. Okay, I said. I walked away and gave the piece of paper at Sam. This girl wanted me to give it to you, I said. What is it? He asked. I shrugged and grabbed an apple. Ew. It's her number, he said before he chucked it into the sand, which caused everyone to start laughing at his face, which was screwed up. He started to show the finger to the poor girl who was now crying. That's my boy, Sam's paw. Man, did Bella look good in her bikini this morning. But I stopped looking after she spotted me looking at her. You know what I'm talking about. Bella was in the kitchen talking to Jacob about what he wanted for dinner while Aaron was asleep on my lap. I must admit, he was a pretty cute kid. And he wasn't loud or anything. And he only woke up maybe 2 or 3 times a week because he wanted to see his mama, aka Bella. Bella seemed so happy that she had found Aaron. I couldn't help but think about what would have happened to him if Bella hadn't been there in time. Hey Bells, did you ever find out who that guy was in the alleyway? I asked her. She looked at me and shrugged. Nah, police said he didn't come from La Push or Forks, she replied. I nodded and carried Aaron upstairs. I was about to lie him in his cot when he said the most precious thing. Dada love mama, he whispered in his sleep. You're right, buddy, I do love your mama, I said to him. I kissed his forehead and closed the bedroom door. I walked back downstairs to find everyone sitting at the table eating dinner. Sam, Quill smelt a vampire, Embry shouted from the door. I quickly kissed Bella goodbye and ran into the forest. I phased and started heading towards the horrible stench towards Forks. As soon as I got closer I could hear everyone growling. She's just a girl, Seth said. No Seth, she's a leech, Leah said. Don't attack, I'm nearly there, I said. I found her in the clearing surrounded by everyone. Her eyes were golden. I don't think she hunts humans, Quill said. I looked at her and noticed that she seemed pretty frightened. Quill, can you come and stand behind us and phase back and talk to her? I said. He nodded and went behind a tree and phased back. Hello, what's your name? Quill asked. She looked at him. Stare lontano da, she said harshly. Stay back, I don't understand what you're saying, Quill said. I huffed. I heard someone phase and start heading towards us. Bella. Bella, why did you phase? I said in my alpha voice. Number 1. Don't give me that tone, Samuel Michael Yuli, and second, I'm here to help. I understand Italian, she said. Since when did you speak Italian? Jacob asked. It's one of my subjects at school. And if you ever turned up you would understand what she was saying. She laughed. She stopped behind us and quickly phased back. Slave, Bella said. Stare lontano da, she said again. She's saying to stay back, stay away, Bella explained. I nodded. Resto, Bella said. I'm staying. Eo, Voli Andarson, she said before she ran away. I was about to send then after her when Bella stopped us. I will leave. I think she's lost, Bella said. I looked at her. She quickly phased back. What the hell was that about? She thought we were going to hurt her, so she was telling me to stay away, and then she figured that she was on our land and fled, she said. I nodded. There's nothing we can do. If you see her again on our land, don't attack, come and get me, I said before turning around and leaving. I could sense that Bella was behind me, so I continued to run. I quickly phased back and slipped on my pants, and so did Bella. We walked up to the house and saw Aaron crying. Bells, he won't stop crying, Billy said to her. She walked over and picked him up and rocked him to sleep. How'd she do that? Billy said to me. I shrugged. I think it's in a girl's nature, I said. He nodded. Yeah, Sarah could always calm Jacob and the girls down, but not me. It was sort of freaky in a way, Billy said. I nodded. Sam, someone phased, Quill said as he came inside. God, they just keep coming, don't they? Bella mumbled to herself. I kissed her and said goodbye to Aaron and Billy and headed outside to see who had phased. Sam. His name's Kyle Henderson. Hello Kyle. My name's Sam, I'm alpha of the pack. Do you know what you are? Fur ball, he guessed. No, you are a werewolf. Now, you must not go into Forks at all. Because we have a treaty line with some friendly vampires who are living there. Any questions? Yeah, who's that hottie over there, he said as he looked over to the house where Bella was playing with Aaron outside. That'd my girlfriend. Back off, I growled. Oh, sorry, he mumbled. He started to think about what she would be like in bed. I swear to God, if you think of her in that way again, you won't live for more than a week, I growled to him. He mumbled a sorry. Guys, help him phase back and he can take Bella's place, I said to him. She's a werewolf, he said. I nodded. That's hot, he said. I growled and jumped on top of him. Don't you dare be rude to Bella, or I swear to God I will rip you to shreds, I said in my alpha voice. He nodded and took off running with Quill and Embry. Well, he's going to be a handful, Jacob laughed. I quickly phased back, which took me a little while because of what he had just said. I walked up to Bella, who was lying on her back with Aaron lying on her stomach. Hey, I said as I sat down next to her. Who phased? She asked. A dickhead called Kyle Henderson, I mumbled. What's wrong? She asked as she handed me a giggling Aaron. Nothing, don't worry. Just don't go near him, I said. She nodded and shrugged. Well, I am going to go shopping. Bye, she said as she kissed my cheek. Hey, see you later, I said before she hopped into her car. Bella's pav. I met Alice and her sister Rosalie at the mall up in Seattle, and we went into every shop, and I had 12 bags of clothes that were hanging off my arms. I had brought some more clothes for me, and then brought some more clothes for my 2 baby boys, aka Aaron and Sam. I know that Sam is older than me and all, but he's still my baby boy. It was 4 p.m. and I was getting ready to go home when I got a phone call from Dad. Hello, I said. Hey Bells, would you mind going to the shops and getting some food for tonight? The pack is coming over and they'll need food, he said. I sighed and agreed. I did need to get some more food. I hung up and told Alice and Rose that I had to go grocery shopping. Oh, please, can we come too? It will be our first time going food shopping with someone who actually eats, Alice begged. What do you mean, with someone who actually eats? I said. Esme goes food shopping sometimes just in case some humans come along and wonder why we don't have any food in our cupboards, Rose said. I nodded. I hopped into my car while they hopped into Rose's BMW, and we drove to Forks and into their grocery shop. I walked down in and grabbed 2 bottles of milk, a 12-pack of Primos, cabbage, lettuce, capsicum, 2 blocks of chocolate, bananas, apples, plums, apricots, and some baby food for Aoun, to 12 packs of beer, 8 packets of chips, 2 boxes of corn flakes, 3 bottles of juice, a container of ice cream, and a bag of lollies. Thanks for coming with me to shop, I said as I hugged them goodbye. That was fun. We should do that again sometime, Rose said as she shut my boot of the car and walked over to hers. See you guys later, I said. I drove home and parked the car in the driveway. It was already 7 p.m., so the guys would already be here. I popped the boot and hopped out with my bag. Sam, Jake, Embry, Colin, Brady and Sam came out to help. As soon as they opened the boot, they just stood there. Well, come on, don't just stand there. Get these bags inside, you big, strong boys, I said to them as I walked inside. They came in, 6 bags on each arm, and placed them in the kitchen. I put all of my clothes away and put Sam's in my drawer that I don't use and put Aaron's in his drawer. I walked downstairs and saw that all of the boys were screaming at the football game that was playing. I saw Aaron sitting in his high chair in the kitchen playing with his toy car. Hey baby, I said to him as I picked him up. Hi, Sam replied. I wasn't talking to you, hun. I was talking to Aaron, I laughed at him. You just blushed, I yelled. He frowned and hid his head. His cheeks were redder than mine when I was embarrassed. I put everything away with Aaron on my hip chewing on my hair. I put 4 packets of spaghetti pasta on the stove and made a whole lot of pasta sauce. What are you making, Bells? Dad yelled from the other room. Spaghetti bolognese, I yelled back. He nodded and went back to watching the game. It was 8 o'clock by the time they all piled in sat at their seats. I sat in front of Aaron's high chair and fed him quickly and then gave him a quick bath and put him in his pajamas. I rocked him to sleep while I kept an eye on the spaghetti bolognese. He was asleep in no time and I quickly put him upstairs in his cot. I rushed back down and poured the spaghetti pasta in one bowl while the sauce in another. I sat them into the middle of the table and they dug in. I had already grabbed mine before they started eating. I took my place on Sam's lap and started eating. Once everybody left, Dad went up to bed while Sam and I cleaned up downstairs. Once everything was spotless, I went upstairs and had a quick shower. I was just about to get out when I noticed some blood dripping down my leg. I'm not supposed to get that. I'm a werewolf, they don't them. I quickly put a tampon on and went to bed. Bells, what's that smell? Sam asked as I hopped in. Weird thing. I just got my you-know-what, I said to him. He looked at me. You're not meant to get it, he whispered. I nodded. I know, I said. Do you think we should take you to Carlisle? He asked. I shook my head and turned over and snuggled into his chest. No, maybe it's Beck. Oz, I haven't been phasing very much, I said. It could be, but I want to make sure. I'm on patrol for the entire day. Can you promise me that you'll go to the hospital and see Carlisle? He asked. I nodded and kissed his cheek. Sure, I whispered as I fell into a deep sleep. I woke up halfway through the night and found a note on Sam's pillow. Bella, I have to go on patrol. I'll be back to 5 o'clock tonight. Please go and see the bloodsucker Carlisle today and find out what is wrong with you. From Sam. P.S. I hope you slept well. I sighed. Sam was going to be out all day. I noticed that it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I put my head back on the pillow and slowly drifted back to sleep. I woke up the next morning feeling lightheaded. I suddenly felt the need to spew up my dinner. I ran to the bathroom and puked up spaghetti bolognese. Bells, are you okay? I heard Dad say behind the closed door. Yeah, I'm all good. Just food poisoning, I replied. But werewolves don't get food poisoning. Are you sure you're okay? He asked. Yeah, I'm sure, I said. Oh, and Jacob went out on patrol this morning, so it will just be you, me and Aaron today, he said as he wheeled himself downstairs. I then noticed that I couldn't hear his heartbeat anymore either. I couldn't hear Aaron's either. I quickly wiped my mouth and walked into the bedroom and found Aaron crying. What's wrong, buddy? I asked. Mama, he sighed as he leant his head on my shoulder. We're going to go on an adventure today, how about that? I said. He lifted his head and started to clap. I quickly got me and Aaron changed and said goodbye to Dad and told him I'd been home later. I put Aaron in the car and I pulled out of the driveway and I drove to Forks. I dialed Edward's number and waited for him to answer. Hello, Bella, he said. Hey, Edward, I was wondering if Carlisle was at the hospital today. I asked. He paused for a minute, probably checking. Yeah, he is. Why? Has something happened? He asked suddenly. Oh no, I just wanted to check up. That's all, I said. Oh, okay. Well, see you later, he said before hanging up. I hung up and pulled into the parking lot. I grabbed Aaron out and saw Carlisle waiting at the front desk. How do you always know I'm coming? I asked him. He laughed and brought me into his office. Edward called me. Now, may I ask why I can't smell you? He asked. Because I took a shower. Duh, I said. No, I mean why I can't smell your werewolf scent, he asked. Oh, that's what I'm here to talk to you about, I said to him. He nodded and told me to sit down. What are your symptoms? He asked. I got my period last night. I spewed this morning and then I couldn't hear Aaron or Dad's heartbeat. For a second there I thought they killed themselves or something, I laughed. He nodded and wrote some stuff down on his little clipboard. Okay, well, I am suspecting that you are pregnant, he said. I suddenly heard Aaron start crying and then everything went black. Bella, can you hear me? I heard someone say. I opened my eyes and saw Carlyle standing in front of me. I nodded my head and sat up. What happened? I moaned. You fainted right after I told you that you were pregnant, he said. Crap, so it wasn't a dream, I said. Bella, I need to know now if you are going to keep this baby. He asked. I nodded. This was Sam and my baby. I wouldn't do that to him. Okay, well, the reason you're probably pregnant is because you're a female girl. I know you haven't had your normal cycle and all, but I think because you haven't phased in a while that your normal human body came back to what it used to be, he said. Mama. I heard someone whimper. I looked over to see Aaron sitting on Carlyle's couch with some toys. I walked over to him and sat him on my lap. Mama, what happened? He asked. Nothing. Don't worry, hun, I said as I kissed his forehead. Bella, you'll make a great mom, Carlyle said. I smiled and gave him a hug and left. Now, how am I meant to tell Sam? Sam's paw. I walked out of the forest and towards the Black's house. I stopped and noticed that Bella wasn't back yet. I began to worry about her. All she had to do was go to the hospital and see the bloodsucker and leave. I walked inside and saw Jacob sitting on the couch drinking a can of Coke while Billy was sitting in his chair talking on the phone. Hey, has Bella been back yet? I asked him. He okay his head and took another sip from the can. I was about to go looking for her when I heard her car pull up. She got Aaron out and swung him over her shoulder and grabbed some bags from the car. Yako. B stood up and walked outside and grabbed some more with me following behind him. Once Bella was inside, I pulled her up to her room and sat her down on her bed. So, what happened? I asked her. She rugged and I saw a smile pull on her lips. I turned her around so she was facing me and I titled her chin up so she wasn't looking at the ground anymore. What happened, Bells? I asked. She huffed and nodded. Carlyle said something, she said. What did he say? I said to her. She started to stare down at the floor again. He said that I'm pregnant, she whispered. Everything started to go fuzzy and I saw Bella look up and her eyes started to widen. I saw her lips move and Jacob ran through the door and went towards us. After that everything went black. Carlyle's paw. I had just had a phone call from Jacob to say that Sam had just fainted. How fascinating. I never knew werewolves could faint. I quickly raced down to La Push in my Mercedes and drove into the driveway of the Black's house. I went up to Bella's room and saw Sam lying on her bed with his eyes closed. I'm picking you told him the news, Bella. I asked her. She nodded while Billy and Jacob looked awfully confused. I smiled and went over to Sam's side. Well, it just looks like he just fainted from the news and all, he should wake up soon. And I don't think he would be happy if he found out I was on his land. He will be fine, Bella, I said before shaking my hands with Billy and exiting. I hopped into my car and noticed as I drove down the road 4 wolves running next to my car in the forest. Sam fainted. Bella wanted me to check on him, I said, knowing they could hear me. They stopped and turned around as we came to the treaty line. Bella's paw. After Carlyle left, Paul, Jared, Quill and Seth came over to see how Sam was. I didn't leave his side for the 3 hours he was asleep. It was 9:00 now. Dad and Jake had gone to bed while I slept next to Sam, hoping in the morning he would wake up and tell me what he thought about the whole baby thing. I don't actually care if he doesn't want this baby, I'm keeping it and he can't stop me, I thought. I smiled and fell asleep next to Sam. Sam's paw. I woke up next to Bella who was asleep next to me. I just then remembered what she had told me last night. Flashback. So, what happened? I asked her. She shrugged and I saw a smile pull on her lips. I turned her around so she was facing me and I titled her chin up so she wasn't looking at the ground anymore. What happened, Bells? I asked. She huffed and nodded. Carlyle said something, she said. What did he say? I said to her. She started to stare down at the floor again. He said that I'm pregnant, she whispered. End of flashback. I sat up and saw Bella move a little. I D over to Erin and looked down on the sleeping baby boy. I saw how her eyes lit up every time she saw Erin and every time he would call us Mama and Papa. She was pregnant, with my baby. I couldn't be happier. I'd always wanted a child. I looked over to Bella and saw a small baby bump forming. Isn't a little early for her to have a baby yet? I walked over to her and shook her awake. Her eyes uttered open and she smiled at me and sat up. How are you feeling? She asked me. I shrugged and put my hand on her baby bump. How many weeks are you? I said to her. She thought for a minute before deciding on her answer. 3. Why? She asked. 3, that shouldn't be enough to get a baby bump this size, I whispered. She removed my hand and walked to the mirror and pulled her shirt up. Her eyes widened and then she felt her stomach. You're right, it shouldn't be this big, she mumbled to me. I came in behind her and pulled her shirt down. Maybe we should take you to Carlisle, I said. She shook her head. If I get bigger today then I will go, she said before shoving me out of the door. I heard the shower turn on and she hopped in. I smiled to myself as I walked downstairs. What are you smiling about, happy chappy? Jacob asked me. I turned to him and smiled. We're having a baby, I whispered to them both. Billy started bouncing up and down in his chair while Jacob just sat there glaring at me. You knocked up my sister, he hissed. I think he was about to pounce on me when Bella walked into the room wearing a white sundress. Shut up. I am sick of you all telling me what to do. I get it. Don't go on the leech's land and go on patrol every day. Got it. I don't have to be reminded every minute of every hour of every day, someone said as they came through the door. Bella closed the fridge door and looked towards the front entrance. I walked over to her and placed my hand on her baby bump. I saw Kyle walking through the living room and into the kitchen. Kyle saw Bella and walked over to her. Hey baby, wanna go upstairs and have a little fun? He asked her while using that stupid smirk. Bella smiled and walked up to him. She stood in front of his face. He smiled and reached out his lips so he could kiss Bella. I was about to jump on top of him and burn him to death when Bella did something that I hadn't expected her to do. She lifted her knee and got him good in the groin. He started slumped down onto the floor while holding himself. Everyone started laughing and clapping as Bella walked into the living room and started watching TV. That's my girl, Jacob's paw. When Sam told me that he knocked Bella up, I wanted to kill him right there and then. You knocked my sister up, I hissed at him. Bella walked into the room and knew what I was thinking and glared at me. I heard Kyle and the rest of the pack come inside with Kyle. I shook my head. This guy was going to be a problem, especially if he keeps on thinking about Bella that way. I watched Kyle walk into the kitchen and saw his eyes scan the room and land on Bella. His stupid smirk formed on his face and I knew he was thinking about Bella again. Hey baby, wanna go upstairs and have a little fun? He asked. I saw Sam start shaking and everyone else was shaking a little. Bella walked up to him smiling and kneed him in the nuts. We all started to clap and cheer for Bella, who smirked and walked into the living and turned on the TV. I only then noticed that Bella had a large baby bump. I frowned. She looked about a month and a bit. I went back to talking to the pack until we heard Bella cracking up laughing in the living room. Sam walked in there and sat down next to her. What are you laughing about? He asked her. She pointed to the TV and I saw that she was watching AFHV. I smiled and Ted talking to Claire, who was sitting on Quill's lap. She was the cutest 4-year-old I had ever seen. Jakey, I4, she said as she showed me 4 fingers. I smiled and patted her head. She giggled and slapped my hand away. Bella's paw. Ring, ring. I grabbed my cell phone from upstairs and answered it. Hello, I said. Hi Bella, it's Rose, she said. Oh, hey Rose, I said. Carlisle wanted to come down and check on you. Is that okay? She said. Sure, I said. I walked downstairs and saw that everyone was staring at me. I poked my tongue out at them and told them that it's rude to listen to other people's conversations. Okay, he says he'll be down there in 5 minutes. And I think Esme's coming too. She wants to meet you, Rosalie said. I agreed and shut the phone. I turned around and saw Sam standing there looking at me. What did the leech want? Sam asked. I shrugged. Carlisle and Esme are coming down to La Push now, I said. Everyone froze and looked at me. Why? Seth growled. He'd always been like a big brother to me. I was the youngest in the pack and was the only girl, so I guess they all have a right to be a little protective of me. Because Carlisle wants to give me a check-up, I said. Sam nodded and sat back down. I heard the doorbell ring. Behave, I said to the boys. They all saluted me and said, yes ma'am. Hey Carlisle, I said as I opened the door. They didn't smell too bad. Just a little sour. Hello Bella, how are we today? He asked me. Fine I guess, I answered as I was pulled into a hug by Esme. It's so nice to meet you Bella. Everyone's told me so much about you, she said. I blushed and saw the pack walk into the living room where we were standing at the moment. Hello Sam, Carlisle said as he shook his hand. Right Bella, where would you like to go? He asked me. I showed him to me in Sam's room. All right, I couldn't help but notice that you do have quite a big bump, he said as he ran his cold fingers over my baby bump. Yeah, Sam said. I saw it this morning and she didn't want to call you. She said she would if she got any bigger. I rolled my eyes at Sam who was now sitting next to me. Carlisle nodded and wrote something down on his clipboard. All right, I'd like to do a sonogram and see how the baby is going, Carlisle said. Would you mind coming to the hospital now? I nodded and got up off the bed. I told Dad and Sam said that he would follow them. Once we got to the hospital I got out and followed Carlisle and Esme into his office. Sam was walking next to me scrunching up his nose. He never has gotten used to the whole vampire smelling thing. He says it smells like Jacob's feet. I laughed at that comment and then remembered what Jake's feet smelt like. I shuddered and sat down on the bed that was placed in his office. I got dressed in a robe and sat back down. Sam held my hand the whole way and told me that whatever happened he would always be there for me. I nodded and closed my eyes and felt something cold on my skin. My skin was still warm so I couldn't be dying. Okay, here we go guys. There he is, Carlisle said as I opened my eyes and looked on the screen and saw a human about the size of my hand floating there. Wow, Sam breathed. I know, I said. Would you like a picture? I didn't answer so Sam answered and said yes. That's our baby boy, he whispered in my ear. I nodded and couldn't help the tears that poured out of my eyes. Sam crushed me into his chest and rubbed my back. Once we said goodbye to Carlisle and Esme we drove home and saw Jake and Aaron playing on the front lawn under the tree. Hey, how'd it go? He asked. Everything's good. We're having a baby boy, I said. Jake came and hugged us and brought Aaron inside who was sitting on top of his shoulders. I smiled and noticed that Aaron and Jake had a great uncle and nephew bond. I hope our next baby had that with Jake too. Sam's paw. I was over the moon about the whole me and Bella having a child and all. I just thought that we would be married and living together before. I decided to leave the Black's house once Bella went to bed and go to the ring store and ask her to marry me. She didn't know how much I loved her. And I wanted to show her how much I did. Once Bella fell asleep I exited the bedroom and saw Billy and Jacob on the couch. I was wondering if, maybe I could, have your blessing for, me to marry Bella, I stuttered. Billy looked at Jacob and looked like they were having a staring competition. They both turned towards me and nodded. Of course we'll give you our blessings, Billy said as he hugged me. I'm just going to go out and buy the ring, I said before I walked out of the door. I walked into the store and saw a woman sitting there. She smiled at me and helped me out and showed me which one woman liked the best. Once I'd brought it, it was already 11:30. The shop was meant to close an hour and 30 minutes ago. I apologized to the woman and she said that it was fine. I know why. Oh, you want to find the right on for her, she said. I nodded and walked away. I got home and placed the ring box in my pocket and climbed into bed next to Bella. I was going to ask Bella to marry me tomorrow at the beach. Yes, the beach. That would be a cool place. I fell asleep rehearsing what I would be saying tomorrow. Bella's pav. I woke up the next morning and suddenly had the eager to spew up last night's dinner. I quickly pulled the covers back and ran into the bathroom and slammed the door closed. That probably woke the whole entire house up. Ops. I flicked the lock and kneeled down by the toilet. Bells, you okay? Sam asked as he smacked his fists on the door. I was about to respond when some more food thought it was a good idea to come out. After I had finished, I wiped my mouth with the towel and brushed my teeth. I was not going to get used to the whole early morning spewing thing. I quickly washed my face and walked out of the bathroom, but instead I ran straight into someone's chest. Oh shit, I'm sorry. Are you feeling okay? Sam asked. I nodded and he hugged me in his chest. His scent seemed to calm my stomach down. I felt something move in my stomach. I looked down at my baby and smiled. Sam noticed and put a hand on my baby bump that had gotten bigger since yesterday. Carlisle rang while you were in the bathroom saying if it was okay if comes down to La Push. So, he's on his way, Sam said as he kissed my head. I looked down and saw that I was still wearing my pajamas. I quickly got up and got changed and went downstairs just as the doorbell went. Dad answered it and I saw Carlisle standing there. I smiled at him. He looked straight down to my stomach. Why does everyone keep doing that? How are we today? Carlisle asked as he walked inside and came over to me. Good, I said. We went upstairs and I sat down on the bed while he checked my stomach. I shivered as he touched my baby bump that was now growing bigger and bigger every day. All right, well, it looks like the baby is growing quicker than usual, Carlisle began, but Billy cut in. Why is it growing faster than a normal baby? He asked. Carlisle looked up and saw Dad sitting in his wheelchair in the doorway with Jake behind him. Well, I can't be sure, but I am picking that it is because Sam is a werewolf and so is Bella. So it will probably have an effect on how fast the baby is growing, Billy, Carlisle said. The way the baby is going, you should be due in about 6 months, Carlisle said as he started to write stuff down on his clipboard. Thanks, Carlisle, I said as I gave him a hug and Sam shook his hand. Once he left me and Sam cuddled up on the couch wrapped in a blanket. Sam's hand was covering half of my baby bump while my head was resting on his chest. Do you want to go down to the beach? He asked me. I shrugged and nodded. He took my hand and we walked down to the beach. We walked along the water's edge until we came to the rocks. Sam stopped and spun me around. He held my hand and got down on one knee. I gasped. He pulled out a box and opened it. It had a diamond ring in it. Isabella Marie Black, I love with all my heart. Will you marry me? He said. I felt the tears pouring out of my eyes. Yes, I said. He kissed me and swung me around. I am officially engaged to Mr. Perfect Jacob's Pav. I woke up the next morning and remembered that I didn't have to patrol today. I got up and walked to the kitchen and found a note from Dad. Jacob, gone to Seattle for the day. I want you to go grocery shopping, there's a list on the table. Bella is at Sam's place, so I am counting on you to do the shopping. From Billy. I groaned. I thought Bella said she would go shopping. Jacob, your baby sister is pregnant. Be a man and go shopping, my mind told me. I sighed and grabbed the list off the bench. I slipped the piece of paper into my pocket and headed outside to my truck. I drove it down to the mini mart and parked outside. Little droplets of rain started to drop out of the sky and land on my muscles. The water fizzed and disintegrated away because of my heat. I walked through the electric doors and grabbed a basket. I thought for a minute, then grabbed another 4. Knowing we could fill up one basket in the first aisle. I took a couple of big packets of corn chips. 3 blocks of chocolate. I looked to my right and saw a girl standing there. She had light blonde hair that came just past her shoulders. Her electric blue eyes stood out the most while her figure was small, but lean. She turned around when she noticed me staring and smiled. She turned back to looking at the shelf and grabbed some packets of pasta. She smiled happily to herself and walked out of the aisle. Did I imprint? No, I don't think I did. She was perfect. I walked up to her and tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around and smiled. Hey, I'm Jacob, I said as I stuck out my hand. She smiled and shook mine. Natasha, she replied. It suited her. I could tell she was getting a little agitated at the whole staring thing. But I didn't mind. As long as I was staring at her, everything would be fine. She shrugged and turned around and started to walk off. I was about to follow her, but knew she would think I was some creep. I turned away and started to grab the rest of the things. I knew I would kill myself if I didn't see her soon. But I would, I could feel it. Bella's pav, Sam C. Aim and picked me up at 8 this morning and we were planning on going to his house and watch a movie together. Hey Bells, can I ask you a question? He asked. I nodded and looked over to him. I was wondering if, you would like to, move in with me. He said. I smiled and nodded. I don't know. Dad and Jake will need me. They can't end up living like a pig and eating takeaways every night, I said. He turned and looked at me and gave me the puppy dog eyes. Okay, fine, I'll move in, I laughed. He pretended to tick something off in midair. 1 for Sam, 0 for Bella, he said proudly. I was pretty big now. My stomach had grown overnight. I only then realized that I hadn't actually been to Sam's house, ever. I was excited. We pulled up in a driveway and I got out and saw that the house was a white color but the wood was all covered in dirt. The gardens had weeds in it and some of the windows were cracked. I looked at him and he rubbed the back of his neck. I gulped and started to walk inside. He opened the door and there were empty food cartons all over the place. The wooden floors were all dirty and the pictures on the walls were sideways. There was a horrible smell coming from the kitchen. I stepped over the disgusting plate of food that was on the ground and walked around the corner and looked in the kitchen. It was disgusting. There were dirty plates everywhere. I didn't even want to know what it looked like upstairs. No movie, I said sternly. He looked at me shocked. I pointed to the door. Hang on. What are you planning on doing? He asked. Cleaning up this mess, I screeched at him. Go and get the rest of the pack, now. He quickly ran out of the door and hopped into the car. I walked over to the kitchen and started to do the dishes. I quickly cleared the tabletop before the pack arrived. I walked over to the door and put my hands on my hips. What took you so long? I asked. They all looked at each other. Quill looked like he was about to pee himself. Well, I couldn't find most of them and everything, Sam muttered. I shrugged and skipped off. Hormones, I heard someone mumble. Everyone followed me into the kitchen and stood by the counter. All right, Quill and Seth, you guys can clean the living room. Sam, Jared and Paul are going to go and clean all of the bathrooms, and I swear to God, Paul, if you start shaking in the kitchen I will shred you to pieces, I said. Paul was actually shaking, but that stopped him. I smiled to myself and turned to everyone else. Okay, I see Brady, Colin, Embry and Kyle are on patrol. And Dad said that Jake was going to the supermarket. We're going to have to do extra work today. So get going, I said as I shooed them away. They grabbed cleaning products. I could tell that I was going to do most of the work, even if I was pregnant. I had gone through 2 full rubbish bags by the time I was done with the kitchen. I quickly pulled out my cell phone and dialed home. Hello, Dad said. Hey Dad, can you get Jake to come over to Sam's after he's gone shopping? I asked. Sure. May I ask why? He said. We're cleaning his house, I squealed. I heard him mumble, hormones, to himself before agreeing and hanging up. I grabbed my keys and told them that the rooms had better be finished by the time I got back. I grabbed the keys and hopped in the car and went to the mini-mart. I brought 12 air fresheners. I stopped at McDonald's and grabbed some burgers and drinks. I drove home and brought the food into the kitchen. I placed the food on the clean counter that I had done before I had left. I walked into the bathroom and saw Sam cleaning in with a peg on his nose. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of him. He turned around and saw me standing there with my phone. I quickly sent it to everyone on my phone and saved it 3 times to different files, so if he deleted one I would still have 2 left. I heard laughing in the other part of the house. They'd probably gotten the picture. I kissed his cheek and went to check how everyone else was doing. I walked into the living room and saw that everything most nearly done. I grabbed the window cleaning and cleaned all of the windows around the house. I walked up to Sam's room and saw that it was the messiest of them all. I grabbed all of his clothes and chucked them into the rubbish bag. I made his bed and looked in and saw Paul in there cleaning. I took a couple of pictures of everyone before I started cleaning again. I opened his blinds and cleaned his vanities. His room was done, and then I walked down the hall and saw that there were another 3 rooms. There were 3 rooms in the whole house and 2 bathrooms. Jared was in that bathroom. His spare room was clean and everything. I walked to the end of the stairs and yelled out to everyone that there was McDonald's in the kitchen. After everyone was finished, I told Sam and Jared to go and vacuum the bedrooms upstairs while Paul is going to go out and mow the lawns. Quill and Seth are going to go and wash all of the dirt off the outside of the house. Everyone left. I decided to do the gardens. I walked out of the house before telling Sam where I was going and going to Seattle and going to the garden place. I grabbed some polyantha, Pernetiana, grandiflora and some hybrid tea roses. I paid for all of them and went home. All of the outside of the house was mowed and was clean. I walked in and saw everyone on the couch asleep. I smiled and walked outside and started to plant roses. Once I was done, I walked inside and went to the fridge and cleaned that out. I only then noticed that there was nothing in there. I rolled my eyes and woke Sam up. He mumbled something, then turned over. I grabbed the keys again and headed out. I went to the supermarket and brought everything we would need. Shampoo, conditioner, soap, bread, milk, butter, Marmite, jam, beer, Coke, lemonade, biscuits, chips and more. After I left, I drove home just in time to see everyone running into the forest. Sam pulled me out of the car and grabbed the groceries. Vampire on the loose, lock the doors and shut the curtains. Love you, he said before he kissed me on the lips. I walked inside and did what he said. I unpacked the groceries and made sure everything was ready, and then when I walked into the laundry I saw all of his clothes lying there in the basket dirty. I chucked me in the wash, and as I waited for them to finish I walked into the kitchen and made some dinner. I decided to make some pasta. I heard the washing machine finished. I put the clothes in the dryer. I wasn't allowed outside to hang them up. I put another load on and ironed the other lot. 2 hours later, I had done all of the washing, dried, ironed and folded. I had finished dinner and put the leftovers in the fridge. I was happy, and then I remembered that I didn't have any clothes here. I knew Sam would kill me if he came home and I wasn't here, so I decided to grab one of his shirts. It was a button-up white one. I hopped into his bed and fell asleep instantly. Sam's paw. I hated leaving Bella like this, but I told her that she had to lock the entire door and shut the curtains before I left. I pulled on my pants and noticed that there were no lights on in the house. I automatically thought that something had happened to her. There was the smell of bleach all over La Push, so I couldn't tell if someone had been inside the house and hurt my Bella. I tried to open the door but then remembered that I told her to lock it. My door was always open and unlocked, that's why I don't have a key. I climbed the tree that was straight in front of my window towards our room. I could get used to that. Isabella Black and Samuel Yuli's room. I smiled to myself and then looked in and saw Bella lying there asleep in one of my shirts. I quickly phased back into a werewolf and ran to the Blacks. I climbed through her window and grabbed all of her clothes that she would need. I walked back with her stuff in my human form and decided not to wake her up but to sleep in my car. I shut the door and fell asleep. Bella's paw. I woke up and looked to my right and saw that Sam wasn't here. I walked downstairs in Sam's shirt, still, and started to cook pancakes. I walked to the window and saw that there was movement in Sam's car. I saw Sam asleep on the front seat. I laughed and walked out. I opened the door and his legs fell out. I shook him and he woke up and looked at me. Hey, How'd you sleep? He said as he rubbed his eyes. Better than you, I see. I laughed and I helped him out of the car. He straightened his back and looked at the house. Wow, this place looks different, he said. Then he looked at the gardens. I don't remember putting roses in my garden, he mumbled to himself. I giggled and pulled him inside. I have him some breakfast and he told me that he was going to go and take a shower and go back to sleep. I got some of your clothes last night, they're in the back of the truck, he said as he walked upstairs. I heard the shower turn on and I walked out and grabbed my clothes. I washed the plates and cleaning the kitchen and put my clothes away and slipped on one of my white dress and I pulled on some white ballet flats and a necklace. I walked downstairs and grabbed my iPod and walked outside and grabbed the hose and started to water my roses. I turned around and was met with a hard chest. I looked up and saw Kyle standing over me smirking. Hey, I said. Guess what? He said excitedly. What? I said as I walked inside with him following me. I imprinted, he said. I started dancing around. I pulled him into a hug. Thank God. Now he could get off my back and flirt with his imprint instead of me. Congratulations, I said. I heard someone growl behind me. I turned around and saw Sam standing there. I walked up to him and pulled him towards Kyle. Guess what? Kyle imprinted. I squealed. Sam sighed and nodded. I know, he mumbled. Do I know her? I asked. He shrugged. Please tell me her name, I begged. He looked up and met Sam's eyes. He nodded and Kyle sighed. Her name's Camilla. She's Italian and doesn't speak very much English, he said. I thought for a minute then remembered the girl that had come on the res then fled. Wait, you imprinted on the girl that came on the res a couple of days ago? I asked in disbelief. He nodded. I breathed in. At least I'll be able to understand her. You could teach he English. That will be fun, I said. Is she staying in La Push? He nodded. Oh, I want to see her again. She seemed nice, I said. He looked up. ND raised his eyebrows before turning to Sam. Sam mouthed hormones to him and I glared at them both. Where does she live? I asked. I wrote down the address he gave me. Tomorrow I was going to go and visit her. Collins Pav. I was angry that most of my other pack members had found their imprints already and were ready to settle down and start a family, but here I was lying on my bed, unwanted and miserable. I hated being single. Sam said that I will imprint, I just have to be patient. Well, I don't want to be patient. I am sick of waiting for the right girl to come along. I stomped down the hallway of my small 2-bedroom house and hopped into my truck that I hadn't used in nearly 6 months. That was when I first phased. I drove down to the park and sat down on the swing. There was a little girl who was ordering her mother to push her down the slide. But the woman looked like she was 5 months pregnant. I ran over to her. Do you want me to play with your daughter? I asked her. She looked at me like I was some dick. She probably thought I was going to kidnap her daughter. Oh, no, I'm not going to do anything. This is awkward, I said, but got cut off by the woman. Sure, as you can see I can't do much. Thank you, that would be a big help. She laughed as she pointed to her rounded stomach that was just about ripping her coat off her body. I nodded and walked over to the little girl who was trying to climb the ladder that went up to the slide. She was mumbling to herself as she continued to fall off the first step of the ladder. I picked her up and climbed the ladder. Shish, squealed when I picked her up and raised her hands in the air. I turned her around so I could see her. She had shiny, black hair that came just past her shoulders in little curls. Her brown eyes were staring into mine. She was so beautiful. Her shiny hair and her eyes belonged to me now. I know that sounded possessive, but she was mine. I wanted to keep her safe and make her happy. I wanted to cherish her. She must have noticed the strong pull because she started to squirm closer to me. I smiled and sat down on the slide. I put her on my lap and held her around her waist, being as careful as possible not to squish the little human. Ready? I asked her. She nodded and hid her face in my chest. Was she scared? It's just a slide. You don't have to be scared, I said. She shook her head and snuggled in closer. I shrugged and flew down the slide. She clawed onto my chest as we slid down. I got up and she looked up from my chest. She smiled and clapped. Her smile lightened up my day. She had very little teeth that weren't fully grown yet. I wonder how her mother would take the whole imprinting thing. Again, she squealed. I looked over to the mother who was sitting there in amazement. She nodded for me to go on and play with her. I climbed the ladder and sat her down on my lap. She sat down on my lap, but this time she wasn't hiding in my chest. Instead she held her hands in the air again and looked down the slide. Once I got to the bottom she pointed to the swings. I walked towards them as she continued to pull at my long hair. I nodded and laughed at how demanding she was. I was about to buckle her to the swings when she started to cry. I quickly unbuckled her and was getting ready to take her back to her mother when she stopped crying when she was in my arms. I smiled. I loved imprinting. I sat down on the older swing that had no safety belt on it and sat her down on my lap and swung us back and forth slowly. It was 12 o'clock by the time her mother said that they had better go home. The little girl, who I soon learned name was Andrea, protested but grabbed her mother's hand. I felt a sudden pull towards her but knew that it was just imprinting. She turned around and gave me a little wave and a smile. She quickly let go of her mother's hand and ran to me and scrambled into my arms. She hugged my neck with her small arms and climbed back down and went back to her mother who was smiling to me. She mouthed thank you to me before leaving with my imprint. I quickly phased and ran towards Sam and Bella's house. I ran through the door and saw Sam and Bella cuddling on the couch watching a movie. I imprinted. I screamed, not caring if I woke their baby boy up. Bella squealed and hugged me while Sam shook my hand. What's her name? Is she pretty? What's she like? Is she cute? Bella asked but her fiancé cut her off. Man, are those hormones showing? Well, actually she's not my age, I mumbled. What do you mean she's not your age? Sam asked. She only 3, I mumbled. Bella looked like she was about to faint while Sam's jaw just fell open as I said it. I nodded and shoved my hands in my pockets. I guess that's not too weird. As long as you don't think of her more than a little sister, for now, she said. I nodded. Of course. I don't love her. I mean, I love her but not in a romantic way, just brotherly love, I confirmed. She nodded while Sam came back to reality. Well, congratulations, he said. I smiled and said goodnight. Bella hugged me while Sam just waved. I phased and ran back to my truck which was still in the parking lot. I drove home and dreamed peacefully, thinking about my little girl. Bella's paw. I hopped into Sam's truck and pulled out the little piece of paper that had Kyle's imprints, number on it. I was planning on visiting her today and then going home and start planning the wedding with Sam, Alice and Rosalie. Alice said that Edward and Carlisle would come and the 2 other boys and Carlisle's wife that I haven't met yet, Esme, Jasper and Emmett. Alice described Emmett as really immature while Jasper was the total opposite. He was very mature and had fought in the World War. Emmett was the muscle man of the family. Edward was the fastest runner. Alice was able to see the future. Jasper was able to control other people's emotions. Carlisle was the family doctor. Esme was the best mother in the world and Rosalie was the prettiest of them all. I pulled up in Camilla's driveway and hoped out. I walked up to the front door when I suddenly felt someone else's presence behind me. I turned around and saw Camilla standing there. I gulped and took a step back. Can I help you? She asked. She speaks English. Why couldn't she have spoken English with me instead of Italian? Then at least the boys would have understood her. She quickly slapped her hand over her mouth and gasped in horror. She looked around and pulled me inside. She sat me down on the couch and started to pace the room. Excuse me, but would you like to tell me what is going on here? I asked. She stopped and looked at me. She took a seat next to me and faced me. I do speak English and I'm actually on the run from the Volturi, she whispered. Why, are they coming to kill you? I asked. She shook her head and started to pace again. I'm not going to be killed. They're coming to get me and take me back to Italy. I was born there and that's where I got changed into a vampire. I was changed by Keys, who was madly in love with me, but I wasn't. I hated him, but he always tried to cherish me and get me to do things I didn't want to do. He thought I loved him like he did to me, when really I didn't. I just wanted to leave and find a nice coven and find me soulmate. But he wouldn't let me. I was locked in a room. Not even the guards were allowed to see me, she said. So what? Did you escape the Volterra castle or something? I asked. She nodded. How's she escape? I thought it was impossible with all of those vampires lurking about. And now, they're trying to find me and bring me back to the Volterra and do something I don't even want to think about to me, she said as she ended in a whisper. I brought her into a hug knowing she could use one. So if the Volturi are coming to La Push, we'll fight, I said. She quickly pulled back and shook her head. I can't ask you to do that. You might get killed, she said. You're part of the family now. We'll do anything to protect family. And you're on our land, you're under our protection now, I said. She smiled and nodded and gave me a bug hug before I left. I waddled outside and saw Kyle in his wolf form growling at me. I rolled my eyes and waved to Camilla, who was standing by the window waving. I backed out of the driveway and headed back home. Bella's paw. I got home and walked inside and saw a note on the kitchen counter. Bella, I had to go out on patrol for a couple of hours, don't wait up for me. Love you, Sam. I scrunched up the piece of paper and chucked it in the bin when there was a bang from the front door. I walked over and saw a furious Kyle standing there. He scanned the room and then when his eyes landed on me he stormed over to me and pulled me over to the coach and sat me down roughly. Hello to Yuta, I said as I tried to get up, but he just pushed me back down again. What did you say to her? He yelled. I knocked him out of the way and stood up. Say what to who? I asked. His eyes flashed red and then turned black. Camilla. I went over to her house and saw her sitting there talking to you, sobbing. What did you do? He screamed again. I rolled my eyes. She told me something that you don't need to worry about. And she was just a little upset about it, and next time you scream at me I swear to God I will rip you to shreds, I hissed. He breathed in and out and then his shaking started to increase. I knew there was no way of stopping him phasing in front of me and I had no time to duck out of the way when he transformed into a werewolf right in front of me. I screamed and grabbed in my stomach to protect him when I felt a burning sensation down my right arm which was cradling my stomach. I heard someone coming through the door and saw some people tackle Kyle to the ground. He was still in his wolf form growling at me, but I couldn't do anything. I had to let the darkness take over me. Kyle's paw. I couldn't hold my anger in any longer. I had just yelled at my alpha's fiancé and now I had just phased in front of her. I heard some ripping and I knew it wasn't my clothes. I looked down and saw Bella there grabbing her stomach trying to protect it, but blood was flowing down the side of her arm and legs. I was angry with her and I knew I shouldn't have let my anger get to me, but I just wanted to kill her right here and then. Which I nearly did. I saw Sam, Jacob, Quill and Jared run in. Jared and Jacob tackled me to the ground in the human forms. Jacob and Jared both phased, which shredded their clothes. I looked over to Bella and saw that Sam was holding her in his arms. He was crying, my alpha was crying. I started to laugh in my head when I suddenly remembered that the rest of the pack could hear me too. You idiot. You could have killed her, Embry yelled. I hope Sam kicks you out of the pack. No, I actually hope we get to kill you, little by little Colin growled. Look, I didn't mean to do it. But you know I can't control my anger and when I don't phase, one said while trying to break free of all of the wolves that were holding me down. I showed them Sam crying, which made me start laughing again. You idiot. Bella is Sam's imprint and you've nearly killed her. I swear to God if you did kill her I will make sure you pay. Jacob roared, which caused everyone to flinch. How whoa. Old you like it if it was Camilla one of us phased and hurt. Jared growled. Camilla. My beautiful Camilla, who was probably at home reading now. She liked the story Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, you love Camilla. How would you feel if Camilla was scared for life because of you? Colin growled. I kill the person who ever thought of hurting my Camilla, because she was mine, not theirs, and I would never hurt her. I can't wait to see what Sam does to you. Embry growled but faked laugh at the same time. Well, since Sam isn't here, he is too busy trying to get my baby sister to the hospital so she doesn't die. I might start hurting you first, Jacob growled, and he pounced on top of me and started to stick his teeth in my neck. I growled and tried to push him off me, but Jared and Embry held me down while Jacob started to rip me to shreds. I was going to die, I was sure of it. Sam's paw. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him, I repeated in my mind as I sat with an unconscious Bella on the living room floor that had blood scattered everywhere. Yes, okay. Sure, we'll be there soon. Thanks, bye. Quill said as he hung up the phone and told me that we had to take Bella to the hospital. We need to drive round the back. Carlisle will meet us there. But we need to hurry. She's losing a lot of blood and I don't even want to think about what the asshole did to the baby, Quill growled. I picked her up and she flinched as I held her to my chest. Quill drove around the back and I saw Carlisle standing there with Edward, who had a stretcher next to him. I rushed out of the car and placed her on it. Carlisle wheeled her inside with Edward rushing next to him. If Edward thought that this was some kind of junior emergency to experience, that he was wrong. We'd been here for more than 2 hours and nobody had told me what was going on. I started to think that she hadn't made it and they were trying to decide which one of them should tell me. Sam, someone said. I turned around and saw Carlisle standing there. What happened? Is she okay? How bad was it? Is she dead? Please tell me she's not dead. I rushed. He put his hand up to tell me to stop. She is alive. She had a few cuts and bruises, everything seems to be fine, Carlisle said calmly. What's wrong with the man? Bella comes in here absolutely cut to pieces and he is calm. What is wrong with him? This is not a clam situation. Is the baby okay? Please tell me the baby's okay, I said. The baby is fine. It's completely healthy, just a little scared, Carlisle said. I nodded and asked if I was allowed to see her. He agreed and said she was still unconscious. I wailed in and saw her lying on the bed with her hair fanning out on the white hospital pillow. I grabbed her hand and kissed it. I started to talk to her. This reminded me she was in hospital when Jacob made a smoothie. Bella was only fragile. She was only small, half my size. She was carrying my child. I was definitely going to have to take more care of her. Much better. Bella's paw. All I remembered was Kyle standing in front of my, shaking. Did he phase? There was a strange beeping noise that actually started to get annoying. I finally opened my eyes and saw that I was in a bright room. I saw Sam standing over me with Dad on my other side in his wheelchair and the rest of the pack sitting on the couch in the room. My hand was sweating like crazy. Did Saw not let go of my hand the whole time I was asleep? Bella? Sam asked, trying to make sure he wasn't going crazy or anything. I felt a horrible pain go through my arm, and when I looked down I saw a big plaster covering my entire arm. What happened? I croaked. My throat was so dry, it was like a desert. Kyle phased in front of you, Sam replied. I saw him try to hold back a growl but he couldn't do so. It came out in a big roar which nearly made me wet myself. Sam quickly mumbled an apology and took my hand back in his. So, what's the damage? I asked. That's when Carlisle walked into the room. Well, you're going to have scars until you have the baby, and then you'll change back into a werewolf which will heal your scars, but in the meantime you have 2 broken ribs and you also have a massive cut on your right arm, Carlisle said calmly. Is the baby okay? I asked. Yes. It just went into shock, that's all. But, I do have a theory why you didn't get shredded when he phased. The baby may phase into a werewolf when he's older. I think he protected you from when Kyle phased with his werewolf powers. I think your baby is going to be more than a werewolf. I think he's going to have powers like no other werewolf has ever had, Carlisle said. Like what? Sam asked. Like maybe healing powers, protection powers, sorts of stuff like that, Carlyle explained. I nodded and closed my eyes. I'm pretty sure Sam thought I was dying because he started to freak out as soon as I closed my eyes. Bella, wake up, Sam yelled. I flinched and opened my eyes. I'm not dying, Sam th. There is no need to shout, I hissed as he shrugged and blushed at the same time. I reclosed my eyes, but his time I didn't reopen them until the next morning. Bella's paw. My dress was pure white. It had little diamantes at the top of the dress. My hair was hanging loosely down my back in curls. I had some of my mother, Renee's earrings in my ears. They were dangly earrings with a little diamond at the end of them. Today was the day. I was marrying the man I loved. I looked about 7 months pregnant. Sam was worried that on our honeymoon I was going to give birth, so we decided that we would have our honeymoon in the Bahamas. I had the feeling in my stomach that something was actually going to happen there. But I knew I would get through it. Bella, are you ready? Dad called from the other side of the door. I waddled over and opened it. He smiled and kissed my forehead and wheeled himself in with Aaron sitting on his lap. Hey baby, I cooed as I picked Aaron up. He was getting pretty big now. We organized that Aaron would stay with Billy and Jake while we were on our honeymoon. Are you nervous? Dad asked as I sat down on the couch. I shrugged. Kind of, I whispered as I played with Aaron's hair that was in little spikes. I'm guessing Sam wanted his little man to have spikes like him. Ever since Sam cut his hair has been full of hair gel. I still can't believe that my TTLE girl is getting married, Dad mumbled. I smiled and bent down and gave him a big hug. Gosh, you're getting bigger and bigger each day, Dad said as he looked at my stomach. I couldn't fight them. The tears spilled over and rolled down my cheeks. I know, I'm so fat, I cried. Dad laughed and pulled me onto his lap and rocked me back and forth while Aaron just sat there. You're not fat, honey. You're pregnant with a baby, he said. I nodded and wiped away the tears. Well, you'd better get ready, Dad said. I just then remembered that Alice had given me waterproof mascara, thank God for Alice. Sam decided a couple of weeks ago that his best men would be the entire pack, except Kyle, who Sam had never trusted again. He said that I was too fragile to get injured. I had completely healed, from he help of the baby of course, and I was healthy. My bridesmaids were going to be Alice, Rosalie, Esme, Camilla and Kim. I decided that my flower girls were going to be Claire and Andrea. Claire was 7 and Andrea was only 3. I walked outside and into the limo that was taking me to the altar. I think everyone noticed how scared I was. Nervous, Camilla said as she rubbed my back. I nodded. Don't worry, honey, you don't know how great you feel after it, Esme said as she gave me a big hug before getting out of the car, just like all of the rest of the bridesmaids. I hoped out and stood at the end of the altar and grabbed the roses from Kim and held them in my hands. Kim, Camilla, Alice, Esme and Rose. Claire and Andrea walked down the aisle throwing little, red petals. Halfway down the aisle Andrea got tried and sat down. Everyone started laughing. Colin ran up to her and picked her up and held her in his arms. Colin told her parents a week ago, Andrea's dad wanted to kill him. At first, but her mum knew that Colin only wanted Andrea to be happy and that he would be whatever she wants him to be. She squealed and hugged Colin's neck. Camilla went first, then Alice, then Esme, then Rose and then Kim. I took a deep breath and started to step down the aisle. I looked up and saw Sam standing there smiling. He was wearing a tux just like the rest of the boys. I saw Aaron sitting in Jake's arms, who was standing next to Sam. Aaron was holding my ring, which was placed in the small bag, just like Claire was holding the bag that had Sam's ring in it. I stood there and gave Esme the flowers and walked over to Sam and held his hands. Hello, beautiful, he whispered in my ear. I smiled and faced the priest. Sam's paw. We stood there for 20 minutes. It wasn't hard for me, but for Bella. I knew all she wanted to do was sit down. Her back had started hurting a couple of weeks ago. I totally zoned out and started thinking about Bella's body until I heard Edward hiss at me to stop. Ops, my bad. Forgot about the whole mind reading. Sorry. You may now kiss the bride, the priest said. Finally, Emmett boomed from the audience. Bella giggled and I pushed her lips onto mine. She pulled away and we started to walk down the aisle when I heard a soft whimper. Bella stopped and turned around and saw Aaron reaching for her. She pulled Aaron into her arms and carried him down to where our car was parked. Aaron, you're going to stay with Grandpa and Uncle Jake, okay? Bella said to him. He blinked and hugged her neck tightly. Come on, buddy, Jake said as Bella handed Aaron to him. I kissed his forehead and Bella kissed his cheek. She went over to Billy and gave him a kiss on the cheek before walked back to me. I turned around and saw an older man standing there. He was a vampire. I growled and all of the other werewolves stood in front of their imprints protectively. Charlie, Bella gasped. Bella's paw, what are you doing here? I asked. Everybody seemed to be just as shocked as I was. Sam was still standing in front of me protectively. I could tell he was a vampire. He looked the same as he did when he left me a couple of years ago, except for the whole pale skin thing. I just wanted to come to my little girl's wedding, he said calmly. I looked at Sam, but he never looked at me, he just stood there growling like the rest of the boys. Jake was now standing next to me. Aaron was sitting in Dad's lap like nothing was happening. Can I not come to my own daughter's wedding? He said as he smirked. I grabbed Sam's arm and tried to stop him from attacking Charlie. Of course you're not welcome here. If we wanted you here we would have invited you, but we didn't because you left Bella alone, Jake growled. I placed my other hand on his shirt making sure he didn't do anything he would regret later. You shouldn't be here, Charlie, I whispered. He looked towards me and took a couple of steps towards me but everyone growled. He raised his hands in the air and smiled. You know Bella, I will get you back baby girl. You will always be my daughter. Oh and Billy, he said as he faced Billy who was clutching Aaron to his chest. Thank you for looking after Bella. But I'll take her now, he said. He grabbed me and swung me over his shoulder and raced off into the forest. The pack and the Cullens were racing after us, but Charlie was too fast. Stop. Put me down, you're hurting me, I cried. The baby started to kick. My stomach was pressed against his cold skin. Oh don't worry Belly, you'll be fine, Charlie said. I continued to cry, but as we got deeper into the forest we started to go out of sight of the Cullens and the pack. Charlie was fast. Even faster than Edward who was in front of all of the Cullens in the pack. I didn't remember what happened but I suddenly felt like I was being dragged underneath water. That's when everything went black. Jacob's paw. We were running through the forest looking for any sign of Bella or Charlie. His scent was gone and so was Bella's. I guess it wouldn't be the nicest to be kidnapped by her mental father on her wedding day, and to top it off, she's pregnant. We're all pretty much doomed if we don't get her back soon. Sam's paw. I ran around the forest millions of times hoping to find something, but there was nothing, not even a single animal dancing around the trees. Sam, well find her, Jacob said. I shook my head knowing that we would never find her. She was all alone with a psycho man. We should be on the plane going to the Bahamas now, but instead we're searching for my new wife. You need a good sleep and we'll start looking for her tomorrow too. Aaron wants to see you. Just come inside, Jacob said as he quickly phased and ran back into the house. I want Bella back in my arms safe. No, I need Bella back in my arms safe. Please let us find her in time. Bella's paw. I woke up and saw that it wasn't a dream about the whole getting kidnapped by Charlie who was now a vampire. I looked up and saw Charlie sitting on the chair in the room. I was in a room which had no windows and only one door. I felt a kick in the side of my stomach and patted it. Shish, you're okay. Your daddy will get us out of here. I whispered to the baby as the door smashed open and one angry-looking Charlie standing there. Here's your breakfast, Belly, he said sweetly. I rolled my eyes and placed my hands on my stomach protectively. Why did you take me? I whispered. He put down the tray of food and turned around and knelt down in front of me so we were face to face. He started to stroke my cheek. I slapped his hand awa. Why, which caused my hand to start throbbing. Why did you take me? I growled. He smirked and stood by the door. The only reason I left you was because I was attacked in the woods by a stray newborn. Once I was turned, I didn't have very much control of myself and would lash out on any human that came near me. I didn't want to leave you, Bella. I thought you would be safer. I was only protecting you, and now I've come back. I actually didn't expect you to be pregnant, have an adopted child, getting married and being a werewolf, he said. Yes, well, life's full of complicated things, I mumbled as I tried to soothe the baby by rubbing the places where it kicks. I'm not going to hurt you, Bells. You're my daughter. I would never hurt you, he said as he started coming towards me again. You stop. Head being my father when you left me, I hissed. He frowned. I could tell that he was starting to get angry at me. I was only protecting you, he roared into my face. I wiped the spit off my face that he had just sprayed all over me and wiped it on my dress. I'd appreciate it if you didn't spit in my face, I said. Why can't you be like any other person who accepts their father back into their lives? He said. You were never a father to me. You always accused me of killing Mum and sent me to stay with Billy and Jake most of my life because you couldn't stand me, I said. I couldn't stand you, because you looked too much like your mother. I always loved you, but every time I looked at you, you reminded me about your mother. It was too much for me to handle, he whispered. I just wanted you back in my life, Bells. I didn't mean to kidnap you, I just thought it was the best way, he said as he sat beside me. I looked down and started to play with the hem of my dress that was muddy and wet. Your friends are going to kill me, he mumbled. I smiled. I'll make sure they don't if you take me home now. I can introduce you to the Cullens, I said. He looked up and pulled me into a big bear hug. Thank you, Bella, he whispered to me. I smiled. He helped me up and we walked out of the room and outside. I only then noticed that it was just a little cabin. I'm a little heavy, I said to him. He smirked and shook his head. I carried you here fine, and I'm taking you back to your home. You will keep in contact with me, won't you? I mean, if you friends don't kill me first, that is, he said. I nodded. Of course, I said as he took of heading back to La Push. As we got nearer to La Push, I saw Charlie's face screw up. I'm picking you can smell the pack. I laughed as he nodded and covered his nose with his hand. I looked up and saw all of the wolves standing there growling at Charlie. It's okay, I said as I slid down Charlie's back. I knelt down in front of Sam and looked into his eyes. It's okay. He's not going to hurt us, I whispered to him. He bowed his head and let his tongue roll out. I laughed and patted his head. I got up, with the help of Charlie, and told him that he should come and see Billy. We walked inside and saw Dad sitting there with Aaron on his lap. I smiled and Dad wheeled himself over to me and smiled. The pack walked inside and took a seat in the living room. How dare you show your face here? Get out of my house, Dad yelled. Dad, it's okay. He's not going to do anything, I said to him as he calmed down and wheeled himself away. I picked up Aaron and sat him on my lip. He rested his head on my shoulder and soon enough fell asleep. He must have missed you because he wouldn't go to sleep last night, Dad said. I smiled and walked upstairs to my old room and placed him in my bed. I grabbed a pair of Jake's pants and t-shirts and slipped them on before walking downstairs to Charlie, who was standing there awkwardly. Hang on, I'll call the Cullens, I said. I picked up the phone and dialed their number. Hello, Esme said. Hey Esme, it's Bella, I said. I heard some shouting in the background, then loud footsteps. Bella, are you okay? This time it was Edward. Yeah, I'm fine. I was wondering if I could introduce you to someone, I asked. There was a long pause until someone actually replied, and it was Carlisle. Ah, sure. Would you like us to come down on the reservation? Carlisle asked. I looked at Sam and he nodded. Yes, please, I said sweetly. I heard everyone whispered hormones to each other. I rolled my eyes and hung up. Is the Cullens a vampire coven? Charlie asked. I nodded and placed myself on Sam's lap. He rested his hands on my stomach and leant his head on top of my head. There was a knock at the door and Charlie looked at me. I nodded for him to open it. Before I could even blink, Edward was on top of Charlie, who was pinned to the ground. Everyone jumped up and ran over and pulled Edward off Charlie, who was growling loudly. I stood up and walked towards Charlie. Guys, this is Charlie, I said. Charlie, this is Carlisle, the coven leader, his wife Esme, his 2 daughters Rosalie and Alice, and their husbands Emmett and Jasper. And who's that? I said as I pointed to the girl in the corner standing next to Jasper. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Katie. She is our newest member of the coven, Carlisle said. Charlie walked all of he Cullens and went straight to Katie. I'm Charlie, he said as he stuck out his hand. Katie, she said as she smiled as she stuck out her hand too. He bent down and kissed it. Everyone looked at me and I shrugged and went back over to the couch and sat down next to Jake, who swung his arm over the back of the couch. I'm glad you're back, he whispered, and he gave me a big hug. Mama, someone yelled. I tried to get up but kept falling back onto the couch. Everyone started to laugh at me. I crossed my arms and frowned. Would someone just go get him? I said. Jake got up and went upstairs. I heard some giggling outside and saw that Charlie and Katie were making out hard out. Charlie's hands were up her shirt and hers were tangled in his hair. I slapped my hands over my eyes and rested my head on Seth's lap. He rubbed my head as I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Bella's paw. I woke up the next morning to find Sam asleep next to me. Aaron was asleep in the cot next to the bed. The rain hit the windows lightly and dribbled down onto the ground. Sam slowly breathed in and out and wrapped his arms around me more tightly. Aaron stirred and then went back to sleep. I felt something strange spilling down the side of my leg. I lifted up the sheets and noticed that there was water everywhere. Shit, not now, I'm not ready to be a mom. That's when I started panicking. Sam, wake up, I said as I tapped his shoulders. He groaned but didn't move. I felt a contraction coming. I lied down and hung onto the mattress tightly and took deep breaths in and waited until it was over. Sam, wake up, I yelled. His eyes flashed open and he flipped out of bed and landed on the ground with a loud thud. I giggled until I found another contraction coming on. The baby's coming. The end.